All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Peaker's Advantage, episode 14 with the man, Thorin. He has returned for his second appearance on the show. We always appreciate it, and especially with all the shit going on right now in the scene, all these roster mania stuff. It's great to have Thorin on. You know, we always appreciate you. But first, I want to say, because I brought this up at the end of the Counterpoints episode that we did, and I think you're really missing out on this type of fucking content.
Here we go.
You need to do baking with Thorin. I'm telling you, you need to do it. It would be great. You do an interview, and it depends if you get like a big time sponsor. That'd be great if you can have somebody sponsor it, and you get
Weed Maps maybe.
Weed Map. I was actually thinking that. I was thinking that is you get Weed Maps to sponsor it. You bring somebody in. You both take edibles, and then you do the interview, like 45 minutes later, and that would be banging content. And if you want to do it even like next level, you can do baking with Thorin while baked, and you guys are baking the edibles and doing the interview.
I mean, it's already known that I do all of my shows on cocaine, so like the chemical interaction would be completely it'd be fucked up, wouldn't it?
You shouldn't mix uppers and downers.
Exactly. Yeah. As I told them when they made the insert the Cloud9 roster, there's the joke. See, luckily only Canadians are going to really get that joke because you guys don't have that in America. But that was subtle enough; it worked. Yeah, keep that in. Keep that in.
Yeah, we won't talk.
That was subtle enough. That was subtle enough.
All right, so real quick, we'll start this off today because there's all this roster shit going on, and just a couple hours ago, Guardian got announced that he is going back to Na'Vi. Blade is moving to the coach role. I've got the article up right here. And
one of the more obvious ones based on the rumors.
Yeah, it's been rumored around for a while, but Blade actually moving into a full-time coach role is pretty interesting, since he was kind of like a what was his title?
I believe the title was like director of gaming or some shit, which it sounded like they went out of their way to say he's not the coach because of course Kane has the job of coach, but he just does something that sounds like a coach. If, for example, you had a fake coach, you needed to give someone a different title to do his job. So I always wondered about that title myself.
Yeah, I feel like you usually just give those guys like analyst title, but they didn't. Like,
no, they wanted him to be. He was more important than an analyst. He was extra special. But anyway, so now that Zeus is gone, I guess that means Kane is gone now too, and Blade is moving into the coach role. That's pretty good. I like that for Na'Vi. I actually think that's gonna make it better. Corey, what do you think this Na'Vi team's gonna look like with Guardian now back in the lineup, even with like Simple still there, of course? How do you think what do you think it's gonna look like?
Well, I don't know, because like I don't really know much about their caller. Like
Boomich.
Is he supposed to be like I've heard that he's a good caller, but I have no idea if that's true or not.
Apparently he was IGLing on Windstrike, and he came over to Na'Vi as like the replacement for Zeus, the eventual replacement.
Yeah, I heard that, but it was supposed to take longer though, right? Like it was supposed to be like...
It's supposed to be sometime next year, I think. They were supposed to transition.
Yeah, so he was supposed to kind of like probably just get guided by Zeus, learn from him, blah, blah, blah. So I think that'll be like the biggest factor for that team, just like how well they respect him, because he's going to be young, right? So it'd be pretty easy for Simple to be like, oh, fuck off. Like, I'm just going to do this. Or like, I don't agree. Like, I could see it very easy for him to get like kind of bullied into like just kind of doing whatever other people want to do. Guardian, I feel like, is a pretty good teammate though. Like I've heard pretty good things. Like he just kind of does the system. I do think that Guardian plays better when he's kind of the focal point of the team. I don't think he will be with Simple and Electronic on the team. So he's still a good opper though, like obviously, but it'll be interesting to see what like Simple and Electronic do double rifles, because that'll be
it could be just insane.
You put one at each site, and like you just have two godlike riflers at each site, and Guardian's a super solid off. I mean,
by the way, we should definitely do what we basically did on my Counterpoint show, Davey, which is where we talked about that topic. Because I want to get these guys' take on it. All we did is get you, Chad, and Moses, So one of the main issues of this move is that by default, like if you just look at Guardian's game, except when he was at his absolute peak years ago, he's never been like a god tier rifler. He's like an all right rifler. He's definitely not terrible. He's not JDM or something, but he's not like a really good rifler.
He doesn't hold the team back, but like he's
But my point is, if you recruit Guardian, you are basically saying he's my primary op. Like you're not going to make him the secondary op to Simple. Like just it wouldn't make as much sense. So the question I have is this: me and Davey were against this, even though like Chad and Moses seemed like on the fence, so I didn't mind it. I personally hate that angle of it. Like I don't have a problem recruiting Guardian the player, but any move that takes ops out of Simple's hands, I'm not a fan of that. Like I think Simple, he should have an op anytime he wants it. In my opinion, he's just too good with it.
Well, apparently he doesn't want to op anymore. Like that was his
sure.
decision.
That's another side to it. Sure.
I think on CT side he could just pull out the op and he'd be good with it, but like a double op setup. But on T side, I really just want to see Simple with a Krieg more. Like, I mean, he's so nasty with it, and the Krieg is so stupid right now that if he has a Krieg in his hands, I feel like he could do just about everything he did with an op, other than like certain wall bangs or something, of course.
The Krieg is like better than an auto sniper, but does the same thing. Like, the Krieg is it's gonna get nerfed soon. But like, so what do you think their T sides are gonna look like, Alex? Like with this whole thing now, because like Duncan was saying, I agree with him as we talked about on the Counterpoint show. I think unless Simple is saying I want Guardian to come in and op, I think you want Simple to be able to play however he wants, and you want to build your system around him. So what do you think their T sides are going to look like with Blade as the coach now, Guardian, of course, being the primary opper? We're assuming if he's not, that makes no sense. Then like, what do you think their T sides are going to look like, Alex? Now, like with Blade as the coach.
Yeah, well, with Boomich calling on like QBF and on Windstrike, they didn't really. I mean, they obviously didn't play with the same kind of like late round pacing that Zeus did. So we're gonna see a little bit more explosive stuff. Just like they take map control, then they hit a site or something like that. It's not gonna be this whole like long game every single round that Zeus was bringing. And with Blade and like Boomich, I'm sure they'll like find some way to work it out, but I think it's just gonna be a little faster than we were used to seeing Na'Vi. Like that's gonna be the main hallmark of this move.
Well, I think people forget that when Simple was like primary rifler, he wasn't with the pack a lot. Like he'd be that guy that would go plat on Cobble by himself. You know, he'd be like extremity, but like aggressive. You know, like going for kills. I think they should put him like in the trio pack with Guardian and Boomich, and then just have like Electronic and Flamey on the outskirts, and just Simple will never miss a trade. You know what I mean? Like he's never gonna not trade a kill. So you just get him into sites as like the third or fourth guy in, and he'll win you every round. Like
he just deathball.
Like you just need him to live. Like don't waste his talent being like outside B on overpass, jerking off, doing absolutely nothing for 50% of the rounds. Like get him in the action where he can trade, but keep him alive for like the retakes.
That's one area, though, where like the fact that these two moves are announced at the same time makes this such a complicated like dilemma to figure out what Na'Vi does. Because the problem is, after watching the way Zeus played, where it was like the last couple of years for Na'Vi was like Zeus became like a parody of himself. Like when he used to say before, it's like, oh, super slow, grind out style, like run the clock down. That was just like a tendency. That's not literally the plan, but that became like the plan. And then on CT side, the famous thing all Zeus teams did was when you really need a round, you just gamble stack somewhere and just pray they come into you. He eventually just started doing that all the time. So like when they make this move, the problem is if they were just making a move to anyone else without the Blade element coming in, I would say brilliant. Like maybe as a team they'll play totally differently, but that might be better. Like if you look at these players, fucking Simple, Electronic, if Guardian only has to be my third best player, I wouldn't mind playing a fucking loose style with players like that. You could accomplish a lot. Like someone like Simple knows how they want to play the game and be very successful. So the real question I have is whether it'll be like Maui Snake said here, like maybe they'll go to a more explosive style, or what will be the impact of Blade, basically. Because the problem is I only know Blade from teams he was the in-game leader of, and he was worse than that. Like, he was better in some senses because he was like a mastermind in-game leader, but the problem is he would never break out of that super regimented style of in-game leadership. So I feel like that would be terrible for this line.
Existence.
Yeah, he was like, basically, whenever it's wrong, because Astral's proved it's wrong, but when people used to tell me that you shouldn't do too much tactics in Counter-Strike, because, you know, the best teams at the time I'm talking about was like Fnatic, Virtus Pro, Envious. These weren't super tactical teams, you know. They played off defaults. They just let the players make the players, basically. The problem is, these are the sorts of in-game leaders people would say were outdated. So my concern basically is, does Blade want Na'Vi to be a super systems-based team with like loads of like, you do exactly this, because I think that would be terrible for this settle lineup. So I want to see these players freed.
I hope they disagree to disagree on some points. Like, really.
I hope.
Like, imagine if this team plays loose. Look at these fucking players. You could tear up fucking Counter-Strike with these players if you give them real freedom, you know?
I think you just want Blade there to ensure that people are having good protocols. You know, like if you're going to take Banana Fast, have the right flashes, have the right smokes, have the right Molotovs. You know, like, even if you're going to play loose, I think you really need like the couple good nades to set your players up for the kills. You know, like, you don't need to have a giant execute every time you hit a site, but you got to have a couple smokes, a couple flashes, a couple good mollies. Just
look at Team Liquid. They don't use the most utility, but they use exactly the utility you need, and then they have all the star players. So they just roll.
That's what I mean. But they all know it. You know, like,
yeah, exactly. They drilled it all for sure, yeah.
Yeah,
like it's loose, but it's not. Like, you know what I mean? It's like a loose where you get to use your skill, but you still have the things to set you up.
Yeah, this is what I'm worried about. The same thing on their T sides where they try to go too tactical and they try to do too much, and they don't play to their players' strengths. That's what I'm worried about as Blade as a coach, for the same reasons you guys said about how that's how he was as an in-game leader. So hopefully Boomich I'm hoping that Boomich realizes like the strengths of his team, and he works with Blade to find like a good middle ground on how they should be playing. But I'm definitely worried about. I'm worried about their T sides.
I feel like Simple is too much say to be like, yeah, we're gonna totally be doing 10-second executes. He's gonna be like, shut up, I'm gonna go get some kills over here. Like,
I don't know, like they kept doing it with Zeus for a long time, but
yeah, but that was when Simple was opping, and I think that it's a little bit easier to go slow with op because you're just it gives you more chances.
Plus, I'll also say, to be fair, like remember when Zeus first came back to Na'Vi, they were so bad initially that like the entire game was Simple. So at that point in time, he's not going to want everyone else to play up tempo. Like they probably just fucking lose twice as fast. Like his whole game at that time was like, just get out of my way, basically. Wait till I'm ready to go in. Like I saw rounds before Electronic got good in Na'Vi where Simple would literally entry T side on train inner with an AWP. Like he would just run down there and shoot people in the head with an AWP. Like that's like you should be going in third or something. What the fuck is this? Like, but that's the level of agency he had to have to get anything done in that team. So I think I absolutely think in this team, with everything everyone said, Boomich is super young, Blade's only just come in as a coach. But Simple should have all to say he wants, basically, with good reason though. Not like he's going to be power mad or anything.
No, I totally agree. I said that on Counterpoints too. I'm like, you need to build this team around how Simple wants to play, because he's the best player in the world. You have the best player in the world. Stop wasting him. It's like, I
actually think, by the way, it's an abstract topic. I actually think personally that's how every team in every sport should be designed. You look at the personnel you have, and then you figure out based on that, like what style would make sense for these players. Half the problem in most games I've experienced is you've got all these brilliant in-game leaders, coaches who do know the game. In fact, they've studied the game their whole life and they have their own way of doing it. But then they just take their way and try and make you play their way. The most famous example ever is obviously Peacemaker, right? Because what people don't know about Peacemaker is they think he's an idiot, right? Because they're like, look, he's been in like 20 teams. It's like, no, what that tells you is two very important things. One, he is amazing at the interview to get hired to a team. That means in the interview, he legit knows exactly what to say, that every owner goes, yeah, this is exactly who I wanted. And then secondly, they don't just kick him day one. He always gets like a month or two in. So what that tells you is for the first month, what he's saying makes sense. He probably does know some stuff about the game, probably has an interesting perspective, probably is able to look at basic problems in your current team and say, fix this, fix that. The problem is, eventually, as far as I've heard, it becomes like what I just said. Eventually, it's like, right, now it's time for you all to play the way I think. And then everyone's sort of like, fuck that. Like, that's not even my style. Or I hate this. Or I don't even like that map. Why we play, And so the problem for me is I think every team should go that way. I think you should always look at and obviously your star is the most important player, right? So if you've got some super duper good player, let's at least make sure he's at his peak and then we'll figure the rest out.
So speaking on the same topic, what's wrong with Big? Why are they not better? Because on paper, this team should actually be really good. Like when you think about the players they have, tabsen, Nex, Zentera, Smuya, Tizian's a good role player. He's not as bad as he's really not a weak link.
He's not
honestly.
As bad as people think.
No, he's not at all. So like what's wrong with this team and why aren't they performing better?
I mean, my main problem is, like, remember, the entire original rep of Big was actually not even big, even though tabsen was actually one of the best players in the world, if you went back like a year and a half or something. It was actually all about God B, right? Everyone wanted to watch Big because they were like, I want to see God B, see all the amazing strats. And they obviously had lots of, like, creative mollies, interesting takes. But the problem is, they don't have God B. So to me, even the interest factor's sort of gone. Like, I don't even see the novelty in the team. So to me, now it's just a bunch of, like, good names, like you said. But I don't really see, like, what would the team style be? Because the whole thing is before, I actually think in a weird way, this might sound like a weird point, but God B in a way held Big back because based on everything I was told, even though he would prep them really well and he would study all the demos, he always wanted to have the freedom in a live game to make any choice he wanted in the moment. Like he wanted like the ultimate, like basically like he wanted to be like it was fucking StarCraft 2 and he was just like sending all the units around. So he wanted it to be where any moment on a train T-side, he could like switch up the mid-round call and be like, we're going to do something totally differently. Well, the downside of that is as soon as your genius caller who's doing all that's gone, it's just gone. There's nothing, like there's no system left behind. Like how am I supposed to follow what he did? Basically like You can't. It's like just giving someone else the same Formula One car and telling them to drive the way that like Michael Schumacher did. Like, well, you haven't got Michael Schumacher. It doesn't help you to just have the car, does it?
Yeah. Alex, what do you think?
Yeah, one thing that kind of like tilts me a little bit about Big's like personnel is like, okay, Toby, their coach, he was on Sprout for 2 years, and all Sprout was good at was picking up the best German talent that wasn't on Big. And I was casting the Meisterschaft League for this like last season, and Sprout had every single reason to win that tournament and win every match ever, but they were so undisciplined all the time, and they were like I think in a game I casted, they knifed people 12 times, and then they lost the match. Like,
wait a minute, actually 12 knife kills?
Yeah, like it was like they were
like
just
a best of 3 though, yeah?
No, it was a BO1 and during the
what
season.
What the fuck? No way.
Yeah.
It's the best of 1 where someone got 12 knife kills.
Like their whole team was just knifing and smoke and stuff like that on Inferno. They were just throwing smokes, and dude, I was fucking dying like when I was casting it, but it was just like it was so hilarious. But it's like, dude, if you're a coach, like how are you kind of letting this happen? And then your team loses too. It's like, okay, Toby might not be bringing the discipline that they needed when they lost Gavi, is my opinion.
Right. I didn't 12 fucking knife kills in one game.
In defense of a coach, you could be the best coach in the world. People don't listen to you. Like, there's not much you can do.
True.
You know?
That's true, but like,
so I mean, not knowing him at all, I can't just shit on a guy, you know. But
here's the thing, though, even though I accept that, like, obviously, listen, that doesn't mean his game knowledge is shit, and obviously, maybe he does think disciplined about the game, right? But I will say this, to be fair, one area I had to like really change my perspective on coaches and in-game leaders is I no longer give a pass to in-game leaders who have exactly what you just said. So I'll give you an example, Corey. I would say that applied to Sean most of the time. Sean Gers, if you actually ever sat him down, almost every round he ever played, he knew what he wanted to do, what he should do, what's going to do next, what the demo was. Problem is, doesn't mean he could get every player to buy in. And I do think the angle of like, can you get the players to buy into what you do? That it shouldn't be the biggest factor, because in a professional world, we'd all just do our jobs, wouldn't we? But unfortunately, in the current world, especially, that actually probably is the most important thing as a coach or in-game leader. I think getting people to actually want to do what you want to say.
No, for sure. Like with Sean's a good example. Like the best example I've had was when I was on TSM with Valens as our coach. Like oftentimes he'd have like hour-long discussions with people about like why they shouldn't do X, Y, or Z. And he tried really hard to discipline people. And like you can't be there like whipping them, you know, like you can't whip someone every single time they make a mistake. You know, you got to pick your battles. So like people are gonna
imagining Valens with the whip every time Twist peaks when he shouldn't. Just fucking
Twist is like 14 and Valens is just dominating him,
beating the shit out of this child every time.
I'm not. It wasn't even like Twist mostly or anything. It was just like, you know, people in general, right? Like every player on a team will overpeak or make a mistake, but you know, then you go into match time and they just make the same mistake. So you can't like in that sense. I just feel like it wasn't really Valen's fault. You know what I mean? Like
sure.
It's not like he's trying his hardest to tell people not like get a kill, fall back, gotta think about the round. So that's just my view in terms of why like Big isn't better. They just got to let Zenteres do whatever he wants. I think fuck strats. Just let him pretend it's FPL, because he's a monster in that shit. He's like simple level in FPL, but it just doesn't translate into Big's game. I don't know.
No, that's actually the funny thing about the Big being the team that recruited Zenteres, because what people basically did was when he was on Space Soldier, he was obviously the best player. It was basically only him and Calix like looked like they were actual pro level Counter-Strike players. The rest were just people from Turkey trying their best. Okay, no problem to them, and just had a Turkish team, so they got to play. But you always wanted to say what would happen if those players went to other teams, right? The problem is, you don't want it to be a team like Big. You want it to be a team like fucking Mouse Sports or something where they open the game up a little bit. Like you do what you want. Like that's the sort of team you want to see Zenteres on. Because I know all the fans of Space Soldiers used to claim like it's just his team. If he was on a better team, it's like which team? It'd have to be FaZe Clan at this point in time, right? There's barely any teams play the way Zenteres wants.
No, I actually think like you put in like I don't think Zenteres should be the best part on a team. I think you put him on a team where he does a role kind of like Rain or something, and he's so fucking fast that he doesn't need to get 25 kills in a game. Just when he entries, you know, he gets 12 kills a half or something, you're gonna win. I think like because he's really really skilled. It just. I don't know how to best utilize him. Like I never talked to the guy. Maybe he just does whatever he wants, and it's hard to control him. But I doubt he'd still be on Big if he was that way.
Oh yeah, and by the way, Davey, let's be real. One problem with the Big team is when you list those names off, as soon as you say tabsen in my brain, I go, brilliant, what a sick player. Not in-game leader tabsen isn't.
Yeah.
For obvious reasons.
Yeah, I think it's tough that they have him in-game leading because he was pretty much, but he's one of those guys who can just do everything. So
He
I'm sure he just volunteered. I'm not sure he didn't want.
As far as I can tell, his move is exactly what Valde and North did. They're both people with like an all-round game. They're super smart. They always do their shit right. So their logic was, like you're saying, it's basically just taking responsibility.
Yeah.
It's actually what I did way back in the day when I first started playing Counter-Strike. I never was interested in being a fucking in-game leader, but I just played in so many teams where the in-game leader didn't put any effort in, didn't make any strat. I thought, why don't I just fucking do it? Like, if I've spent all this time, at least I know it's getting taken care of. And that's basically what these players do. The problem is, like, Valde at the moment keeps doing it, but can you really believe, like, are these guys going to commit for like 3 years? Because to me, if you're not just going to beat an in-game leader, why not just get ahead of the curve, mate? You know, in 3 months you're going to quit anyway and try and get someone else. Just don't fucking waste your time. Like, for me, it's a full-time job. You can't. There's no tourists in the world of being in-game leaders. At least not good ones. You know,
it's a complete waste. Like, it's like a waste of, like, with a guy like Valde, like, shit. He was on pace to be a top 10 player in the world. You know, like, he was on pace to be one of the best players in the world. And I don't know if this is going to slow him down. Well, obviously it's going to slow him down in some sense, but like, no, it's just a complete waste. But you know, whatever. Like you said, someone has to take responsibility, and if he's the leader on the team, you know, he's been there for a while. He's got a real like big personality. Like, it makes sense why he would volunteer to do it.
It's just because people don't realize, they think that like, oh, I could play the same if I was calling and I'd be a good caller. I guarantee you that's what everyone thinks. Because like, I've known people do that in the past. And what happens is they don't realize that instead of DMing for an hour before practice, they got to watch a demo instead. So slowly their skill declines over like 6 months because, you know, they played like 100 less hours than they would have. And then on top of that, they're naturally going to start doing like more, even if they keep the same spots on T and CT that they normally were good at, they're still going to start like buying more grenades on ecos and like not, you know what I mean? Like, unless you're like an eco caller where you just keep everything the fucking same and you literally like base the shit around you getting kills, you're gonna slowly decline. And it's not because you're worse. It's just because you're doing what a caller is supposed to do. and I think that'll like drain on anyone.
I'll even give you like an example, like especially for people who were star players. This is the reason why I think Shock's ruined his own game. Is a player like him, like let's just imagine a spot that you'd see him on. So a classic Dutch French map is obviously Dust 2, right? So imagine Shock's going up mid on Dust 2 on T side, and then he's going to decide like, do I go catwalk? Do I go mid? Do I go through the shot? Right? Let's imagine he's just playing in a normal team where someone else is the in-game leader. All he is thinking about now is his timing on when he goes up cat, how he's going to take the peak, conditioning of when were they there last time, what spots did they play last time, like are they going to flash me earlier, they're going to say that. If he does all of that and he's the in-game leader, at least like 20% of his brain now is like, right, and I've got to time it so that the guys who flash at B do that first to fake, and then I've got to like watch on the mini-map where the guy at long is and listen to his call so we can like the amount of extra stuff you've put in that will actually short circuit what you were doing in your original role is going to be ridiculous. So like, not only if you're not a great in-game leader will you not be doing a great job as an in-game, but you'll just make yourself worse. Like, you'll be worse at the game. Just makes sense, unfortunately.
Yeah, you're just not going to be as good as your spot in a default. Like, you're not going to think of all the tendencies that they were throwing at you. Exactly like you were saying, their timings, their like little plays that they did before, like what plays can I use to like try to win my spot in the default. They're thinking of the macro picture, not the micro picture.
It's like, here's the best example of it. This actually, believe it or not, is what has fucked up a lot of great players who were called chokers, like Device. It's that they're actually very cerebral people. And what they do is when they get in trouble, they act as though like in real life, if you get in trouble, the best thing you can do is stop everything you're doing and just really think about the situation you're in and what the right decision is. In Counter-Strike, that's the worst fucking move you can do. There's no time. You haven't got time to sit around thinking, oh, like start adding up like it's a perfect equation. Like, wait a minute, I'm still busy on this part here. It's like in Counter-Strike, you have to basically know how to play the game before you play. And then when you play, you just play. So the problem is those people basically in the big games where they're choking, they know they're choking. That's the problem. They're in their own head and they're obsessing about like, oh, did I go slightly too early there? Whereas like every good player pretty much, he does his practice when he thinks about that stuff. In the actual game, you just play off instinct. You know, you've trained yourself to know what to do. In fact, most people who are performers say it's the opposite. You want to get out of your head and not think about anything and just do what you know you're supposed to do and not worry about that. In fact, usually people say, don't even think about the context of I'm in a final and I must perform and I must do, like, that's going to wreck you. If anything, just act as though you're in a CSTM and you're just going to run around this corner. And of course, you're going to shoot the guy in the head. That's what I'm practicing, right? So I think just generally, that's what the people there don't mind. So I'll bring it back, actually. I'll tie it back in. The problem, and Tempest kind of started on this, that I think people like Valde and Tabsen have. Another great example would be right now where they've kicked Aleksib out of ENCE. So I mentioned this on Counterpoint, Davey, that I'd heard from behind the scenes stuff that they claim it's because actually when ENCE was winning all those amazing, like, 16, 14 games and close games, and they were going like head to head with Na'Vi and Astralis, and they were having all these amazing. They claim basically that when it was the late game and like super clutch round, it actually would be Alu who would like take over and be like, actually, I think we should do this, and he'd have like the hero call. So their logic was like, why do we need Aleksib? It's like, because you just told me there that Alu only did that in certain spots. Like, I don't know what the fuck Alu does for the first 10 rounds of a game if he's the IGL. Like, does he even know how to run that? Maybe he's just a guy, and I've found this with a lot of star players, because since the star player, we can tie this into the whole conversation, since you usually want your star player to do what he wants, you want him to have some say, because he's going to tell you what he wants or what he's noticing on the map. Like, I think it's actually an opening here that I want to go for. So usually they're right. Star players should have input, but their input is usually tactically best where it's like, right, I've just noticed one thing and I'm going to pipe up now on this one round because I think this would be a good call. The difference is the IGL's there every round, man. His life is every day doing the call. And guess what? Not every call is going to be sexy. Some of them are going to be some boring MSL call, but that's what it's needed in that round.
That's why your example, in my opinion, works well with secondary oppers. That people are like, well, why doesn't he just primary? It's because he doesn't buy it again if he sucks. Like, you know what I mean? Like, exactly. Like they're always like roaming around the map, so like they can seem really sick, but you don't notice because they're rifling if they're not feeling it. So it's like,
yes. It's the difference between an AWPer who's a primary AWPer and goes to the same spot every round, and if he just gets killed there 4 times, he has to find a new way to take that angle and that shot, or someone who can just go, I don't think I'm an AWPer now. Like, if you're a real IGL, as all these guys called Zera, Alu, fucking Valde have or will find out, that you will eventually get into the spot where you are the in-game leader and you're a month into the job and you're like, actually, I don't have that many cool ideas every round in my fucking life. Like, it's kind of because you know the real joke of all this is the real reason they all quit isn't even just how hard the role is. It's also the worst role to do. It's the most boring role. Like, for every cool epic movie strat you get a call, like I said, you have to call a billion rubbish ones. That you have to do the games like MSL has had. I always give MSL as the example because to me, anyone who thinks MSL sucks as an in-game leader doesn't understand what an in-game leader is. That guy's a very good in-game leader. He's just not the best. Therefore, you don't want him on Astralis. But if you have any team below that level, you fucking kill it. So the thing with someone like MSL is this guy is going to make just what he thinks is just the correct call in this round. It's going to be very boring. There's going to be halves where he goes like he only gets 70 rounds, but you look and actually he called like probably the right call for like 10 rounds, but 3 of them he lost because his team didn't win the 1v1 or whatever. Like, that's a fucking shit job. You get none of the credit. You get all the blame.
It's very draining when you're losing a lot. Like, because you might not even be, like you said, it could have been the right call 10 rounds in a row, but you start second guessing yourself. You're like, I'm calling the right things, but really, like, is it my fault?
Yeah, and then it gets even worse than that because you watch the demos back with the team and you're watching it and you're like, look, guys, we made the right call here. You need to hit that shot, and they're like, you fucking telling me I need to hit your shot? Your fucking strats suck, and that shit happens all the time.
By the way, let's go without saying that the usual divide in even pro teams goes like this: the in-game leader does what Davey just said there. Here's what we should have done. Actually, we did the right thing. Just didn't get the result we wanted. The star player always goes like, I did the right thing. I won the round. It's like, oh, Jesus. Now we have to have like a philosophy debate with this guy. Like, no, just because you shot him in the head doesn't mean it was the right move. Like, people think I'm joking, Davey, but the reason I said it even happens in pro teams is, I won't say who, but I've heard stories within the last few months of like mega high level teams where players were saying shit like this to their coach. Like, but it worked, bro. Like, by the way, even saying bro to your own coach.
Dude, I've played with
Imagine that. Imagine someone like Bill Belichick, like, what up, bro? I got the ball over the line. Like, can you even imagine that? I can't.
No, it's fucked. And players do that all the time. Like in CS, so many rounds. Like, there's sometimes where, like, it's very, very, very uncommon for an in-game leader to make the wrong call when he has the correct info. That doesn't happen very often, especially at high level CS. Like, if you see a team where you're like, oh, why is he doing that? Why are they going? They're stacked here. They're stacked. Chances are he's got some fucking shit info from his teammates.
Yeah.
Like, some guy might say, oh, there's 2 guys B. There wasn't 2 B. There was actually 2 mid, and there was 1 B. And these bad comms happen all the time. Sometimes in-game leader makes bad calls, but usually when it looks like there's some shit call being made, chances are he's got some bad info. chances are that's what's happening, especially at the top level. Like, you're not going to see just terrible calls coming out all the time. So most of the time when teams are making calls and they're doing strats and they're running shit and they're still losing, so much of CS comes down to, did you win your aim battle? Like we set you up for this fight now. You've got out to this spot, and then the other guy headshots you right away, and now the strat's broken down. And it's like that.
I'll tell you something that will infuriate you when you hear this. So I'll just say this, because the key thing I have, like, the way my rule goes, like, is like this: if someone tells me something in private, and the implicit context is this is in private, I'll never reveal it. Or I'll just say someone told me, and I won't say who it is. Right. But if someone tells me something like through a third channel and I didn't even ask, and I just get that info, well, that info can go to anyone. It's just out in the community. It just hasn't got to the fans yet. So I don't mind saying that. So what I'll tell you is, I didn't get this directly from Vitality though. I heard that's one of the problems Vitality as a team has had, is because they're in-game leaders. It used to be MBK, who's a classic example of this. He used to be a very good player who keeps trying to be an in-game leader, but has never yet succeeded properly as a full-time in-game leader. And then they switched to Alex, who's very young in the game. He hasn't even been experienced for very long, right? Think about who these people are. Well, I heard one of the problems Vitality was having was any time they would have like really bad matches or like a really bad run, they would just try and rehaul everything, which is the worst idea ever. Like, that's like if you had like a problem with the plumbing and you just rip the entire fucking houses, like electricity out or the paint off the walls. Let's just start from zero. So you know it's going to take a fucking long time to do that whole job. And if we fuck up at any point again, logically, you're just going to do it again, aren't you? Like as you're saying, you have to sometimes know, like, essentially that's why the in-game leader is the hardest role, because the in-game leader has to actually make the call that what I just said to do was right, even though what your eyes showed you says I was wrong. Like, this guy died here, didn't get the bomb and didn't. Like, essentially, I have to say I'm smarter than everyone else in this room. That's sort of the job that you're doing, which is why, to tie it back into the thing I said before about why I do think it's so crucial if you can get buy-in, is that is where the difference is between someone like Daps and someone like Stanislaw. Daps, he can talk for 5 hours and he might still not get through to people that they have to do everything he says. They might like, yeah, I'll do it sometime. Someone like Stanislaw, for whatever reason, probably because he's a sick player, just has people's respect. Like, he doesn't even have to have the conversation that Daps would struggle through. It's even though in this scenario, maybe right? Daps is even right. If that was supposed to be a pun, fuck you.
No, it's about the...
If you actually said it's just about the sort of energy you put out, fuck you, David. Fuck you, absolute hack motherfucker. You're as bad as not the new one, because I've noticed they've redesigned it now, Hex joined, but that previous NRG logo that they redesigned, that was so whack. I noticed when Hex joined, he obviously, listen, he's in like streetwear and shit. Instantly, they had a new logo that looked vaguely decent compared to it.
And they have the best fucking jerseys in the scene too. The best fucking, those white and black jerseys. That's some of the best jerseys they have that we got in the scene. No, those are fucking sweet. But yeah, it's all about the energy you put out there. If Stanislav's got, like, as an in-game leader, you gotta have, like you were saying, you gotta have big dick energy when you're talking to your teammate. You can't, if you sound hesitant or not sure of yourself, they sense that shit mad quick, and players are fucking douchebags, and they sense that shit instantly, and they'll hop all over that, and they'll start doing their own thing. It happens all the time.
By the way, I'll give you the craziest example ever, is existence. Because, like, Semphis knows this. Everyone in the early days of CSGO, we're talking like the first 2 or 3 years, people who are only fans now think I'm just like bringing up some guy that was never relevant. He was basically, people used to think of existence the way people now think of Glaive. You remember when FaZe and SK were the best teams at the end of 2017? It didn't matter that Astralis was like the 3rd best team. Everyone would still have told you Glaive's the best in-game leader. Like, look at what he's doing. Like, again, because tactically he might call the right game, the players just couldn't win the rounds. Everyone acknowledged, like, this guy's the genius, he's the mastermind. Even if you don't win the game, he probably did the right thing. The problem he had was this, Davey, was when they failed all those majors, because they failed some like 6 majors in a row, so it mental with him, right? Basically, what I was told was people would look over or talk to him after they failed, and because he himself was completely shook by what had happened, like he himself couldn't account for why it went wrong, or like he would just himself think like, oh, it was just a fluke, like it was just an accident. Like, people just lost all confidence. So it didn't matter that if they'd watched, like, you know, his tactic might have been the right tactic, or maybe you set the game up right. As soon as they lost that faith, it was like he was a fucking leopard, dude. People just want to get away from him. I don't want this guy. Yeah. Fucking hell, like, we're gonna lose him with this guy
too.
Yeah, for sure.
If Nip wasn't there, he would be like way more
exactly.
Respect, you know, like it was like they were just running up against a wall. Like, they beat everyone else pretty easily. Like almost just as well as Nip would beat most people. I think it was just they had some sort of mental block versus Nip for like 2 years.
Absolutely.
Well,
and I also don't know what you guys think, because like I don't know, Thorin, you're kind of like you're more of like a prestige person, I think, but like I don't personally think it's bad to get second a lot. Like that's
I don't.
really good. Well, I'm not saying you'd say it's bad, but like I don't even think you should make a change necessarily. Like if you're like, I'm not saying not make a change of your game or how to beat the team, but like you don't need a major roster change generally if you're getting second at like 80% of the tournaments and just losing to like the same one or two teams. And
No, definitely not. I mean, for example, even though in this case I was wrong, I actually initially argued against the move to kick out Taco from Team Liquid because I thought this team looks fucking great. Why are we doing any change to this team? Like, what? We're just second best. Well, there's no guarantee the first best team just stays great forever. Like, what if? Like, I mean, this is an extreme example, but for all we know, something happens in the life of an Astralis player halfway through last year, and their team just gets worse. And Team Liquid won everything. Nothing else would have had to change, pretty much. You know.
Yeah, no, I did. I've said this too. Like, even though I think Stewie adds a really good dynamic to the team and he's really good and all that shit, I think they still would have become the number one team in the world this year if Taco.
I think the potential was there. This is the reason I did a whole video where the premise of the video was like give Zeus some of the credit for this Team Liquid now, which everyone watching will be like, "What do you mean? He never even coached this team?" That's exactly my point. Is like. These teams don't all start at zero. The players you play with and the coaches you have affect how you think about the game. So the odds I would think is no matter what Adren does now, Zeus got them to the point that Adren took over. Like, think of it like a relay race. Like, he had to do his part. If they never beat Zeus, I don't know if they ever get to this point. So, like, I agree on that one. Like, they were already a very good team in every respect before. But I know what you mean, Semphis. My problem is this, is like, if you're second and you're like legit second, like you had the chance to win the tournament, that's fine. You can definitely keep the same roster and we'll just see if you get a different opponent or if you beat the same opponent. My problem is like put it this way, this obviously doesn't apply to like a Vanguard that just finished second in the major, right? Because that was like, they probably shouldn't even finish second, right?
Yeah. I think that's safe to say.
They're a lineup. They're a matchup dependent team. I think they can beat like a lot of teams, but there's some teams that will just smack them. I think, like Liquid and
like any team, like any team with strong tactics, really. Like if you're just going to bat with them and you're just going to go out for a slugfest, they can win. But if any team with strong tactics is going to struggle with the Vanguard. But so sort of staying on the same thing, this FURIA team right now, they just won their first event. It was that event in Helsinki that had Cloud9.
Arctic Invitational.
Yeah, Arctic Invitational. I'm not sure who else was there. I'm very bad at this. This full-time. This is my full-time job, by the way.
I think the Crazy team was maybe there as well.
Yeah, Crazy,
Crazy Cloud9, and I think.
Must be lesser teams at this point in time.
Too crazy there.
Must be some shit teams after this.
SJ Gaming. Just like
That's another Finnish team.
Oh, another Finnish team. Okay. Yeah, so they won that pretty handily. I think beating that Crazy team is actually pretty legit. Beating that Cloud9 team, they have some potential, but it's not super impressive at this point.
They need more time in their lineup.
Yeah, they need more time. In my opinion. Yeah, their lineup doesn't make. But they actually beat Crazy pretty legit. They beat them 16-11 on Vertigo, 16-9 on Mirage. They had that time where they like sort of went flying up into the scene and then they've sort of dipped back down and just sort of plateaued. Alex, what do you think is the future for FURIA? Do you think that they're going to go back up to the heights they reached at one point, or do you think they're going to sort of stay plateaued at the level they're at right now?
I think it's like they have to plateau now because the reason they like skyrocketed is because they were bringing in strats from like 2014 and 2015, and there's only so many of those strats. I don't actually think they were a good like theory craft team, but they would take strats from like the first major and stuff like they would take strats from like LGB or like these teams that just made like I don't even know like just made it in the group stage of a major. They just looked at this and were like, oh, here's a cool like chin of smokes that no one throws for like.
Because I see them do some wild ass shit, man. Like
no, as individuals they do some wild shit.
Dude, I was watching
when
a
they
nuke
actually
match.
Run strats though. Alex is right. They actually do take super old strats.
Dude, I was watching him run on nuke. Okay, so the whole team is holding a default. Yuri's like on like outside holding the nuke push as T. They're holding ramp. Everyone's chilling. Fucking Art is out squeaky in a smoke, looking down by himself, while two CTs just spray into it and kill him. And then it's just a 5v4, and everyone's just chilling. And I'm like, what's going on? Like, so what was the best case scenario there? Like,
if that's the result of their theory craft, that I think that just proves my point even more. I don't think they're like their ideas they come up with are just like they have like these strats from like 5 years ago that no one remembers anymore, and then they have like just individuals that are like under this philosophy that's like, guys, we're just gonna like, if you want to make an individual play, always make it. That's like, and we're gonna always make these plays across the map at the same time, and it's gonna catch people sometimes. So I feel like they're gonna have some like highs, like they might come in like top 4, top 2 at an actually big tournament sometimes, but like they're also gonna have like tournaments like where they don't even make it out of the group stage.
I think
go on. Sorry.
I think if they got cold, they'd be really good. Honestly.
Yeah, they just need like $1 million for that.
Yeah,
So
so
they just lend them that.
Well, they have that
service.
Nike deal. There's those 4-year contracts. Like, surely, they've got 4-year contracts.
Well, I just
I'm
don't
sure
think
they're all
I don't
making
think he
bank.
would really ruin any of the roles. Really, Art's kind of like Fallen. He's like a caller / op hybrid.
So aggressive.
Yuri's
He's
kind of
so
like
crazy aggressive.
No, he's insane, but like he does his thing. Yuri's kind of like Fur a little bit. He's kind of like he roams around.
He's the best
like,
player in that team at the moment. Let's be
Oh
real.
yeah, 100%. Quesarado isn't like Cold. A lot of people
He's
compare
way
him to
too
Cold. And he's just like, he is up and down, and he also is like the extremity guy. He's like on like T sides. Cold is in the pack, so you put Cold in a pack with Yuri and Art, and you got a pretty fucking strong ass core right there roaming around the map. And then you got Yuri and fucking Quesarado. Like, I don't know. I obviously, like you guys said, getting Cold is the hard part, but I don't know.
Like, it's no doubt Cold would make them better. Obviously, right? It's fucking Cold. But I just can't. I don't know how they would be able to afford him. Or I think he was playing a fucking local LAN with Nico. Forgot. Like
Yeah.
he's got his
As a
mind
theory
set
craft,
on
I get
it.
it
lose
though.
that game?
Yeah, as a theory craft, I get it though.
Did they lose that
it's worth a
LAN?
shot. Did they?
I think they lost it.
Ooh.
Yeah,
I'm surprised.
they
To be
didn't.
fair, they're
They
not
didn't make it.
team.
Yeah,
So-
but you got Nico and Cold Zero on the team. Surely a local Serbian LAN, you've got to be able to win that, right?
No, because
I guess
Nico's
it-
whole family was there. Of course they lose.
Yeah, it was everybody. But like,
Too much pressure.
it was the.
He couldn't do it.
But like, yeah, I guess they were playing with Yanko and Kassad. But anyways,
Yeah.
fuck it, whatever.
Personally, I don't think Fury is that legit a team though.
No, I don't think so either.
Like my big problem is I have 2 main issues with them. One is like the most obvious. I guess 3 issues. One is the obvious one, which is that like they just broke out with like a gimmicky style that nobody had seen. So everyone initially was like, what the fuck? And then it takes you a while to figure that out. But like, if anyone didn't see this, they actually lost to that Gamers Legion Existence team, like something like 3 weeks after they broke out. So like already people who studied the demos had figured out some things you can do against them. So that was never going to work forever. The second thing, which is a pretty important one, is I actually don't think in terms of players, they have good enough players. Like Yuri's a pretty good player. Quesarado, like I said, he's up and down. Sometimes he has good games. Sometimes he has terrible games.
Yeah.
After that, like, mate, just throw the rest out. Like, the rest of them aren't going to be in a top 5 team in the world. And then the third issue, and unfortunately, this is another one that doesn't endure, unfortunately, is I actually think they're one of those teams that got a mad advantage just because of the maps that they're good on. Right? They are really good on Nuke. Barely anyone likes that to this day. It's just in the middle of everyone's map pool because everyone plays Vertigo now or bans Vertigo. Then they're always playing like Train, Overpass. People hate these maps. These are considered specialist maps. Like if you're good at Nuke, Train, and Overpass, you can get a matchup against anyone in the world in a best of 3. Name me a team except like maybe like NRG or something who can't do that. Like everyone else is scared of the Vertigo or they're scared like that means that basically they're always going in a best of 3 with like a chance against even good teams, but they don't have good enough players and their styles are gimmicks. So I think if you add it all together, especially with all these sick roster moves happening, I can't see them being a top 10 team. I just got to say it.
Yeah,
Like,
I don't
there's
think
too many
so
teams can be
either.
above them. I don't hate on them as a team though. Like they're a cool
Right.
little team. It's kind of cool they came out of nowhere. That's kind of a good story.
Yeah, I think Yuri's like actually a legit ass pro.
I wanted him
like,
to go to MIBR basically.
Yeah,
He's the one I wanted.
Quesarado's like
MIBR.
average, but like Vinny and Able J are just like they leave a lot to be desired.
They're not good
you know?
players. They're not
Yeah.
good players. Let's be real. That's not even hating on them. Like, here's the other thing as well. I'll give them this prop. They're the sorts of players, like this might sound like a mad backhanded compliment, but I mean the compliment side of this. They're actually players I think would never be pro level players in any other team, but they somewhat fit the style of this team. I'll give them that.
They get the system. Yeah.
I wonder how much their coach like plays into their system. Like I wonder how much of it is Art, because if you watch Art play, this system makes total fucking sense that this is the type of shit he wants to call, because he's an absolute lunatic the way he does things. And he does interviews after, and to be fair, I really like these guys. They're all super nice guys. Like they
Sure.
really are.
Yeah, they
They're
are
all
pretty
super-
cool actually.
Yeah, they're
They
really
don't have
cool
the
guys.
ego a lot of the other ones.
No, they're all really nice, cool guys. And Art does interviews, and he's like, "Look, this style is I'm creating space for my team." It's like you can create space with your team for your team, but like you're going fucking crazy right now. Like you're running through the smoke with an op, no flat, like he's a fucking lunatic.
Yeah, his problem is he thinks like when he says he's creating space, he's just like, opening an area of the map they can move into. Whereas sometimes he's just dying and therefore creating loads of space for the other 4 players on the map. They've got an entire map now.
By himself.
That's the old Dota joke. You die and you say space created.
Yeah. So, anyways, I can't see them like you were saying earlier. They broke into the scene with a really gimmicky style, and everyone who's been around the game for a while, like any of the new fans might not know, but anyone who's been around the game for a while, this always happens every now and then. There's like one team that comes breaking in and they get like some upsets, and they have like 1 or 2 good tournament runs, and they have this really unique gimmicky style. And then what happens is teams start to figure it out, and they start to counter it because they're playing like meta CS. They're playing like proper CS, and they start to counter it. And then the team that has this gimmicky style, their gimmick's not working anymore, and then they have to get caught up. They have to try to get caught up.
It's really the story of like every CIS team that just does randomly well in Major. It's like 3 months later, it's like, who are they again? Yeah. Congrats.
And whereas on the other side, I'll give you an example of where that using the same logic, you could tell a team was legit, which is ENCE. When ENCE did that run at the Major, and then you watched them play, they weren't fucking gimmicky. They were playing like real Counter-Strike, doing real strats. Like they had good T sides. They would play slow and measured and move. Like they had the eye test they were passing every test. Yeah. Whereas the problem is, you did look at those matches. Like obviously, no one can delete from their brain FURIA versus Astralis on Nuke, and you were just looking at some of the crazy pushes they were doing, and you were like, "What even is this shit?" Like, there's a reason no one tried that when Astralis won every Nuke commit. It would have never worked if you tried this against Preak Astralis. Like this is ridiculous shit. It was cool to see it work, but only in a novelty fashion, right?
Yeah. And the other thing about ENCE, like you were saying, is they passed the eye test. They were like a team that played good, fundamental CS, like you were saying, that they all looked great. And the one thing that didn't make sense is you're like, where are the kills coming from on this team? Like, who's getting all these kills? Like, on paper, Alu's their best player on paper, right? It's like he hasn't been. He was out of the pro scene for a while. He joined this team as like I guess I'll just play in Finland then, like. So that's why, even though I was against removing Aleksib, I thought that doesn't make any sense. I actually like the Sunny pickup. No, you're good. Like I actually like the Sunny pickup.
Yeah, exactly. No, they've got more fragging. Exactly.
Yeah. Corey, you were going to say something?
Actually, I'll spin it this way. Here's how I'll spin it then, mate. So you said before, if you come second all the time, you shouldn't necessarily make a roster move, right? Isn't ENCE an exception to that? Because to me, when ENCE came second, it's like, well, not supposed to win with these players, for fuck's sake. You're not supposed to just beat Astralis and Team Liquid and everyone else if you've got like X7, Aleksib. Like, where are the fraggers here? Like, you've only got a couple that are good. Aren't they a team that should have gambled on a move?
I kind of like, I get where people are coming from when they think like, oh man, they got lucky, but they got lucky so much that were they lucky? You know what I mean? Like, it's like...
You're talking about FURIA again, yeah?
No, sorry, I was talking about ENCE.
No, we're not. We're not saying that ENCE is lucky. We're using them as the opposite example. Like they're the example that wasn't fully breaking. Right. They were the one that when they broke in, you could see it was legit. Was my point. But I wanted to ask you is like, would they count for your theory before about if you come second, you don't need a roster move? Because ENCE had a lot of seconds and thirds, mate. But I did think they needed a move.
Yeah, I think you see if they start falling off. Like I think they were just at the point where they're going to start falling off, and then the change after that would have made more sense. Maybe they were trying to get ahead of that. You know what I mean?
As far as I know, that is what was happening. Where basically it's one of those ones where exactly as you just said. To us, they didn't fall off. They just finished second at Chicago. They made top 8 here. Like you'd think this is fine, but their opinion was like it wasn't going to last. So to them, it's like
I personally, I don't think it was going to last. I really don't. Like I do think they were going to slowly decline, but like at that point, yeah, I agree with the roster change, but at the same time, it's like not the one they made.
Yeah,
like the one they made was so weird. Again, I don't play in their team. I don't know how all the dynamics work and stuff. But
what about this? I'll put it this way. This is what I'll say if you're someone from ENCE. The reason why, even to this day, I don't really fuck with the move of specifically Aleksib out of the team goes like this. If you really had a team that was constantly placing top 3, second, even beat Prime Astralis, won a fucking tournament, if your team did all of that for like 9 months and you're telling me that guy wasn't a good in-game leader and he was just propped up by someone secondary calling, I think that would be the first time in the history of Counter-Strike that could ever have happened. I don't think I've ever heard of a team that could have those kinds of results and look that good tactically, and the in-game leader wasn't doing any of it. Like I always say, there's certain roles you can't fake. Like, you can't be a fake in-game leader. Like, even people who want to tell me that like existed nothing in NIP. Like, listen, he clearly wasn't fucking Glaive, but he can't have done nothing. Like, he wasn't just sat by, like, he wasn't really doing the meme of like, just go kill for us. It's like, there's a way more than that to the role. So like, if you win, I'll always give you props that you must have done your job to some degree. So that's the problem. It's like, it feels like they are just throwing him away completely. I just find it hard to believe he wasn't good in any sense. Come on.
Can you guys recall any roster change of an in-game leader being removed for not a direct upgrade or someone of the same caliber, resulting in them getting better?
That's going to be a tough one.
Yeah, that is going to be a tough one. I'm trying to think right now.
Because karrigan for Glaive is the one that I can think of, but because Glaive wasn't as proven.
No, it's true. At the time, you would say that Glaive was kind of a no-name game leader.
But he was still a caller that had called for many years and had success.
Exactly.
So there's still that behind him. You know what I mean? So it wasn't like they removed someone for no caller or making someone else a caller on the team.
Like, the closest I can come is when Fnatic, Pronax left and they just got Dennis and one of those. Like, I would actually say that's the exception of the rule, though, because if you even saw how they won those tournaments, like, they clearly didn't have great strats, and they were just a bunch of sick individual players shooting you in the head. Like, it was almost like
lost some of those.
Oh, they should have. What people forget about that little run where they won 6 LANs in a row is at almost every LAN they were losing best of 3 series because of the format. Like, they lost to Envious a couple of times. They lost to fucking like a whole bunch of teams. So it's like, yeah, if that's the one example you've ever got, it almost proves the point, doesn't it? Like, I agree that I don't think that's ever happened. I can't think of any good example of that, because the problem is in-game leader is so important as a role, isn't it?
Yeah, I can't think of anything, at least not in the tier 1 or tier 2 scene. I can't think of anything besides
and that example is by far the only one that I can think of, or that Thorin thought of. That's the only one I can think of, and it's not even really a good example. Like in the sense that, like, it's not even a good example because they didn't really get a caller. You know what I mean? Like,
exactly.
I'm thinking of LDLC when Happy started in-game leading. I don't know if he was an in-game leader before that.
He was.
Okay, then never mind. Then that's not even an example.
I don't think there is one.
No. I think that might be fucking it. So,
I don't know.
Which, by the way, basically suggests that what they said in the team will have to be true or they will be wrong. Because I said this on Reddit and people were all like downvoting the shit on my comment, but first of all, I don't give a fuck. I've got 200,000 comment karma. See if you can hit me with one of those downvotes, you dumb motherfucker. I could even post now, I have 200k comment karma. That'd get 50 upvotes. And that would offset 10 of your fucking downvotes. So think about it. But anyway, put that to one side. The point I made.
What does karma do on Reddit?
Nothing really. Just stop. Just fuck all.
Just give you something to brag about on.
Exactly. Yeah, there you go. You have to be on. It's about the numbering. It's all about it's about clout. It's all about clout. That imaginary thing. Yeah. So no, the point I made was, though, and people thought I was being too extreme and like hyperbolic. I said either ENCE is going to turn out to be wrong, and they've now kicked a really good in-game leader, and they will regret this move, or they were totally right, and Aleksib must not be good. In my opinion, there can't be a third option.
Well,
so either they were right in this case, they'll be the first team to kind of skip that trend that Semphis brought up, or they're going to find out like, holy shit, did we just click the Glaive of the Finnish scene? Did we actually kick him out of our team?
Yeah, it's going to be so fucking weird.
So if you take an example of like another team that has made this mistake, right? So the next one I can think of is like FaZe, right? So they remove
the obvious one, yeah.
Yeah, the obvious one is, so FaZe makes it. So what would you do, or what do you think if a team is in this slump, right, and they're doing bad?
I know the exact answer to this.
All right, so instead of blaming your caller, which it seems to be like a lot of teams do, they scapegoat him. It usually isn't that reason, but you never know. Sometimes it probably is. So instead of removing karrigan, what do they do? What do you think like the right option would have been?
Right, here's the problem for me is in the context they were doing it, I know why they removed karrigan, because all of the players in that, what people don't realize about that team is, so the 2 best players in theory over most of this FaZe clan lineup was Nico and Rain, right? They're the 2 players who were the bangers that you need to be on. They're the modern day stars. The other 2 normal players were Guardian and Olofmeister. They could play like shit for the next 10 years, and when someone says the name Guardian or Olofmeister, your brain will go, holy shit, that's Guardian and Olofmeister. So as a result, even Nico, like, have you ever, and people like Nico have flamed teammates before. They've never said fucking shit about Olafmeister, even when at the beginning of this year he was an absolute corpse just being dragged around the map. The problem is you're never going to get a young star to cut like Forrest. He's just not going to do it, mate. Like in his brain, he still thinks it's Forrest, isn't it? And every time he does one little flash of what he used to be like, they're going to be like, that's exactly why I knew I should keep him in my team. It's fucking Olafmeister. So they'll never kick those. So there only was one player that could be kicked, and unfortunately it was the in-game leader. And I actually think the FaZe players bought their own hype that we are just fragging everyone. Because what people don't get, this ties into what we were talking about earlier. I've told people so many times, the point of like terminology is to start a conversation, not end it. Like when I say a team has a loose playing style, that's the start of a really interesting discussion about how they play. Anyone who thinks that's the end, it's like, right, well, they're just loose. So here's a category called loose. Every team that's loose is like that. It's like, just because I say karrigan was a loose caller, he wasn't literally just saying Nico, go kill B. He was still doing a lot. He just doesn't micromanage every aspect, or he doesn't do an entire execute from A to Z.
Yeah,
he maybe just does it.
Game plan.
But like, you know, obviously there were definitely games where he's like micromanaging one player interaction. Like, yeah, I want you to hit that again. Like, right. And then we're going to flash off it. You know, he would definitely still do aspects. So the problem is, first of all, I think the players really did believe that karrigan didn't do anything and they would just shoot everyone in the head, which they've found out now isn't the case. But more importantly, I think he was the only person they were allowed to sort of within their circle blame. And so my issue is, if I know that, well, listen, I'd also agree. If you have to keep those four players, so your only choice is kick karrigan or not kick karrigan, I actually think kicking him was the right answer. Because if you look at the team at the end, they didn't even fit him as well. Like it was both. There was a marriage that was meant to break apart. My issue is, to bring it back to what you said, I think that should never have been the first and the only place to look. Like if you tell me, make a team, you can start with Nico, karrigan, and Rain. I'm like, cool. Can I just keep those three? I'll pick the other two and I can make a fucking sick team. So why they never thought themselves, remove Olafmeister and get a fucking super sick entry player, remove Guardian and get a modern day sick AWP like Voxic or something like that. Like, why they never thought that is beyond me. Because to me, that was the more obvious move. Because basically what you're saying is this: what's easier to get? An in-game leader of karrigan's level or a player like Voxic? I'm sorry, it's actually easier to get a player like Voxic in the modern day. Because as we kind of discussed in this call, in-game leader is actually one of the hardest roles ever in the whole game. And as a result, I actually think it's become the most important, because all the top teams that you can think of now that are really amazing teams have legendary in-game leaders. Even fucking Zeus at the end was still considered a great in-game leader. Like, these guys did the role for like 10 years. You're trying to get a brand new guy to do that role and be as good. Good luck with that.
And if you get someone like Voxic and he doesn't work out, it's easier to get a different
Exactly.
offer. Like, you don't have to revamp your whole style with a new guy to come in and like tweak everything. You just get a new offer and then say, hey, like, all right, we're going to plug you in to everything that's already made. If the reason is just he wasn't good enough, you know, like, obviously if you might have to rework some stuff from play styles and stuff, but in general, it's much easier, much easier.
Well,
like, am I the only one who really saw this? When they kicked karrigan, a lot of players, because here's the thing, because fans heard that story that like, oh, he was the IGL until they were 0-2 in the major, and then Nico took over and qualified them for top 8. Every fan was like, so Nico's saying he's not good enough. And every fan thought they were getting ahead of the curve by saying that he should be kicked, right? I can't buy that, because to me, it's like, am I the only one who thought, okay, karrigan might be kicked now, but give him 6 months, a year, he'll definitely be back on the top team, one of the best in-game leaders, and he'll be right back where he wants. Like, I think FaZe was mad short-sighted on that move. Like, I think someone like Nico will only years from now look back and realize, holy shit, did I just waste like a year and a half of my prime just because I made the stupid move of kicking my in-game? You did. You actually did. That's the dumbest thing. You were in your prime, dude. That was right when Nico was like God tier still. Because now he dropped off, even it got depressing, but he was amazing last year still.
Yeah, well, me and Alex used to talk about this, like Maui Snake. We used to talk about this because he was our coach on Space Station for a little bit towards the end, right at the end of my career there. And we had a bunch of young kids on the team, 16, 17, 18-year-olds, and we're trying to develop them. We're trying to like make them like see things, see their mistakes. And you realize super early on, and me and Alex used to joke about this, they don't even realize the system they're playing in. They don't even know that they're playing in a system. They're just doing the things you're telling them to do, and they don't even realize what system is going on. And you realize this once the round breaks down, and you think that you have a system in place that everybody should, even if a round breaks down, they should still be able to understand the system and make the correct decisions for themselves. No, they don't. They don't. These were also really young kids, to be fair. Like these are 16.
No, dude,
17-year-olds, so.
it's not even that. What you're saying now, by the way, applies to pro players. Like as I said, first of all, I think the FaZe players didn't get it, but I'll give you an example that this guy told me it to my face on an episode of Counterpoints. I had Valde on after he became in-game leader in North, and I basically said to him, like, since you've now been the in-game leader, what do you now think of MSL? And he literally said, remember, he's kicked MSL out of his own team. He even said, when I played with MSL, I didn't actually understand basically what his system was until I stopped playing with him. And now I realize he always had a plan in every scenario. He always knew what he was doing. Like that, you actually take that for granted when it's just there. You know,
well,
you're
making me feel better about it because I just thought that meant, oh, I must be a shitty in-game leader if they don't understand my system.
I think a lot of people have had that battle, mate. I think that's a common battle.
Well, maybe I retired too soon.
Is that why you retired? You thought, right, if I can't get through to these kids, then it's done for me.
No, sadly, actually, I just have a shoulder injury that makes it hard for me to play for long periods of time, and was seriously affecting my individual level to the point where I was just embarrassed. So that was the main reason why, and I have to have surgery to get it fixed, but don't know when that's going to happen. But yeah, anyways, so Alex, again, like you can talk about that from a coaching standpoint, like when you're sitting back and watching, like, does this happen like all the time when you're just like, when you can see that some players don't really realize what's going on within the system?
I think just like the macro is just something that most people don't understand because they know how to win their spots in defaults. I mean, they're playing FPL, they're playing whatever, pugs all day or whatever it is, but then they like don't understand like what does it mean when like map control is taken here? Like what kind of reactions is this gonna like ensue, or like what's going to happen next? And it's like usually the IGL is going to be the guy that's like, all right, that means we're going to do this now. But it's like the players are just like, I just can't die, I just can't lose my fight, I'm just going to win my fight. Like that's what you're thinking. You're just
dude,
like,
you know what I can't handle?
Fuck.
People don't get this. This is one area why I'm glad esports became mainstream, right? Because one thing I hate about gaming culture now is, you know, like, for example, there's this big push in esports to pretend that we're not all nerds sat at PCs. We're all like fucking working on Bowflexes and fucking eating a macrobiotic diet and like praying to God like exactly the right amount of time. And we've got like a healthy life balance and stuff. It's like, you know, that goes against the entire culture of gaming. But to be fair, that is what Counter-Strike became, because Counter-Strike itself isn't like the most hardcore game. Like it's not fucking StarCraft or something. So I've always thought it actually is kind of whack that we even call all players nerds, because like some players are not a nerd at all. Like there are nerds like Alex is describing one here. There are players, even pro players, who are the equivalent of like, I just hit my shots, bruh. Just give me my gun and get out the fucking way. It's like there's idiots that are brilliant Counter-Strike players, but you definitely don't have to be super smart. So the difference is the IGL though has to be that nerd. He has to be the guy like, well, actually, guys, what you're supposed to do on round 4, that's the IGL. Get me that guy as the IGL. If the IGL walks in with fucking shades on, he's like, all right, boys, like, get me out, get him out. You're fake. You're fake, dude, IGL.
There's fucking players I've been on teams with, and they're like, I'll be like, okay, change this monitor setting to this. They'll be like, okay, so what button do I press? And I'll be like, man, like,
dude, do you remember the story?
Like, give me a fucking break, bro. Like,
his last ever major. Do you remember this story? His last ever major, Shroud played a game where he went like 1 for 17 because he didn't know that the machine he was playing on didn't have graphics drivers installed.
Oh, dude!
Like the idea you're a nerd, like you should have to instantly give your nerd pass in the second that happens. Like, you are fake. You are faking.
A nerd though. Mike actually is
in his own way, but like that is ridiculous. Is a mistake.
No, that's fucking ridiculous. Like,
no, some players are lost when they're setting up. They're like literally like, what? How do you not know how to?
Meanwhile, like vibrance? You have to realize in fucking me and Semphasis era, like I knew how to get every frame out of every setting, out of every fucking graphic. I was tweaking the graphics so I could see like 1% brighter.
You had to download like external programs not to have Excel in the game.
Like I've played on a fucking team with Corey. I will tell you, no game looks fucking smoother when you sit down and I'm sitting down and I'm DMing and Corey's sitting there, I'm looking like, Corey, do that with mine. Like do that to mine. And Corey's walking up and down the PCs, setting up everybody's monitor settings for them because he's just got that shit fucking figured out.
Well, the thing is like even if you don't know, like sometimes I'll go to a tournament and it'll be like an Asus monitor that I've never used in my life, and it's got all these settings. What do? I whip up my phone, and I Google it. I go Reddit. What's the best settings for FPS games? Then some guys will give you their like list. I test one or two and I pick the one that feels the best for me. It like might not be maybe one's 90, maybe one's 80. I'll pick the one that feels better for me. But like if you're just going and setting up defaults, you're doing yourself a disservice. Like, yeah, I'm sure it works for Nico like sometimes because he's just really good. But I think some people are just genetically and just better in general. Like there's bodybuilders I've heard in interviews that are just like, they're like, "What's your diet?" And they're like, "I don't know. I eat like Reese's Pieces." And they're like, "Hell, like you look insane."
Dude,
You know, like,
the maddest example
like,
ever is supposedly fucking. I can't remember. I think it was Wilt Chamberlain. So like we're talking like a classic basketball player from the 60s, basically. Supposedly, and he was like one of the most ridiculous physical athletes ever. Supposedly, he used to just eat pizzas at halftime and like drink beer.
Yeah,
but he was still just like scoring more points than anyone ever. Like the whole point is someone like that's not talent, is it? Like, well, it is no the point. It is talent. Like it's not like something you learn though.
No, that is
he just is whoever the fuck he is, isn't he? Like the difference is if you're not him, don't try any of that shit. It won't work. For you.
Apparently, pizza is actually really good to eat when you're playing sports. Like I don't make the fucking rules.
Okay.
All I know is in hockey, like ice hockey, as the Europeans call it ice hockey, we just call it hockey. But they bring pizza in for the intermissions, like, and the players sit down and they all eat.
See, what you guys don't know, the reason why we have to call it ice hockey is because in Europe we actually have field hockey, right?
Whatever the fuck.
Basically, that's our soccer. That's the sport we make the girls play. They just play field hockey, and we play like real sports. Whereas in America, like that's the joke. Have you ever noticed that the USA women's team is brilliant? They won the World Cup and everything because they actually care about football. Because you make all the girls in America play football. So,
well, I think when it comes to
in America,
sports,
everybody always plays sports, and high school sports are a big fucking deal in the States. Like here, no one gives a shit about their high school teams. In the US, people give a shit about their high school teams. Like girls are playing varsity like soccer at their high school shit. That's a big deal for them. And like here, people would be like that's like the thing you do for fun if you're bored. Like nobody gives a shit.
Yeah, I think when it comes down to like performance sports, any calories are better than too little calories. You know what I mean? So like a dude eating a pizza and drinking beers would be better than if he ate too little but chicken and broccoli. You know what I mean? So like, yeah, it might not have been optimal. He probably should have been eating like a steak and some potatoes in theory. But you know, if you're not getting bad digestion and you're a sick athlete, like, and it's working, you know.
I will say one time we thought we were sick on my hockey team when we were like 16, and we thought, dude, the NHL guys, they're all eating pizza in the intermission. That's what we should do. So in the intermission, we ate pizza, and about 3 of us threw up on the bench. So it was super greasy pizza.
It's all
I
what
choose
you
not
can
to blame
digest.
the pizza. I choose not to blame the pizza. Not pizza itself. That pizza we ate was super fucking greasy and gross.
It just works if you're good. Like Joel Embiid in the NBA can drink milkshakes or whatever, but then like Draymond Green will be like, he's like, okay, I'm gonna turn it up now because it's championship season, and he'll just like diet cut, get his nutritionist on his ass, and then he'll just like own or something like that. For Counter-Strike, just get Simplicity to your monitor settings.
Dude,
it's the same upgrade.
I'm on this fucking no sugar diet
months.
right now. Like I don't eat any sugar. I have there's like 1 gram of sugar on something that I eat. Like these rice cakes have like 1 gram of sugar in them that I eat. Fucking disgusting shit. But and you just said milkshake, and you just like my brain just like melted. It just died. I was just like, oh, a milkshake would be so fucking good right now.
You just gotta have like 1 milkshake a month. Like it's just you just gotta do it.
And I have to go to the extreme, or I fucking bitch out. Like I don't do it well if I don't go to the extreme.
Like, I mean, if you want, I can actually give you some political literature that could make people give you free next time you're out in public. So
yeah, I don't get the joke there.
He doesn't get the joke. Never mind. That's pretty good actually. Listen, viewers will know what I mean. So we'll see.
Okay. And if they don't, they'll pretend they do. So
probably.
So that's all that matters. I could have just kept laughing and pretended I knew what you were talking about, but yeah, exactly.
Fold him again.
Yeah, Alex got it.
Anyway, back to Counter-Strike.
Back to Counter-Strike. So Valve released this statement. I did watch your BTN episode with Richard where you guys talked about the Star Ladder Major, and I don't really want to bang on Star Ladder that much, to be honest, because although I thought the DMCAs were fucking dumb, I thought almost everything else with the Major ran really well. Like almost everything else, there wasn't a single player complaining about PCs.
Also, do you notice, by the way, in Valve's statement, people still don't seem to know. This is where people in esports don't read. They just hear other people's version of the opinion and go, yeah, I agree. Like, that statement essentially backs up what fucking StarLadder did. It essentially says StarLadder was allowed to DMCA people. Valve, even themselves, sort of is trying in that statement to persuade, but we hope that they would work with Street. Like, they essentially imply that is what you're allowed to do. Now, listen, that doesn't mean I agree with it, but that's the part that people didn't get about this whole Major thing. Like, if StarLadder really thought it was within their right, guess what? Remove the name StarLadder. That'll be anyone who does the Major, mate. If it's Blast, if it's ESA, anyone that's going to do that, apparently.
I will say that I don't think the statement necessarily says that gives StarLadder the right to DMCA.
It was way too vague, wasn't it? The fucking statement.
Way too vague. Way too vague, but also, like, as far as the actual legal argument goes, like, I have a friend who's in law school. He's not a full-blown lawyer or anything, but he's a little bit more educated on it than I am. So I asked him about how it works because he's actually like really familiar with copyright law. It's like kind of what he's doing.
Okay.
And so I asked him, and he was like, well, even if they sell them exclusive broadcasting rights, as far as a DMCA goes, they still don't own the game itself. So a DMCA he said that'd be a really weird gray area as far as the law goes, because they have broadcasting rights, but they don't own the game. So by filing the DMCA, you're saying that you own the copyright material, which they don't technically. They own the broadcasting rights, not the copyright material.
Yeah,
so
for people who don't know,
like
I'll make this very simple for people. The part that confuses people is this. So DMCAs usually aren't even about this sort of art. Like usually a DMCA would be something like, I actually take the stream of, let's say one of you does your stream. Let's say Semphis is streaming and I restream his stream through mine. And now what I'm going to claim is, but I'm adding content. It's fair use. I'm just talking over the top of it. Like, look, why the fuck's you doing that? What's you talking about? Now, if he then DMCAs me, that's cause he can just say, I own this stream. What the fuck? Like, he's just putting my content on there. So you are right. The problem with it is, it does imply StarLadder owns Counter-Strike because no one's restreaming the StarLadder stream. They're restreaming the game that you watch inside Counter-Strike. Exactly. So I get the premise you're saying. The problem with it is, this is the real issue with the whole topic, because even in that statement, Valve didn't just come out. Let's be real. They could have done this. They could have just made it like the book, like the fucking 10 commandments, like thou shalt not say DMCA. Like they could have made it explicit if they wanted to. They purposely didn't. And none of us having a way to contact them and get a follow-up. So basically, bearing in mind, Twitch has to honor the DMCA because that's just the way the law works. Basically, you're better safe than sorry in that scenario. This hasn't changed anything. Like the same thing will happen next majors if I can tell to anyone.
Right. The only way it would be changed is if somebody actually DMCA'd Richard Lewis, so he would get his lawyers on it. Nobody else is going to sue him back.
No, you're right, actually. Basically, the one area here's the real irony of it all. StarLadder didn't get in even half as much trouble as they could because they did reverse the DMCAs.
Right.
If they'd have actually upheld them, that's when it could have gone to shit. Like, put it this way, if Richard gets banned, he has massive exposure. If Flom gets banned, if I was at home and I'd for some reason streamed it and got back, like, we could get the exposure to maybe put like real pressure on them, but normal people can't. Like, let's be real. Like, even some normal streamers, they would just be fucked. Like, it would fuck their channel. I agree.
We need Shroud to stream it next time. Let's
there's one. You need like Ninja or something. Yeah, you need some big name guy, because the idea there is when he gets banned, it's going to take his whole channel down. So now that's every like Polygon, all of them would write articles.
I will also say, in Valve's wording, that's Valve, like they were telling everyone, like, yeah, they were telling all the TOs, yeah, you have the broadcast rights, but don't be a fucking dick about it.
Yeah, basically.
If you're a dick about it, you're not going to get another major. Like, that's
totally
pretty much
what
Valve was saying. In that,
like, if you're StarLadder and another person is streaming it and they're spamming their ads and shit, like, but if you're just a dude that private streams to your fans, like,
or even if they're legitimately trying to do a competitive product, like imagine if ESL just joined the GoTV and threw up their own fucking stream, you know what I mean? Like, we're streaming the major and it's from GoTV, so that's fine, you know what I mean? Like, I could see why, like, that's totally
that's the issue. I
get that gets into the business angle. I get why you need to protect people against that for sure. I agree with that even.
Yeah, me too. So I understand why Valve has released a statement how they did, because Valve has pretty much said, Valve has vaguely covered everything and sent a warning out to everybody, like in a super low-key way, where they're just like, all right, play nice with the content creators and nobody else be a piece of shit.
Problem is, though, dude, even that angle doesn't really work, though, and I'm just going to be the one who says it, because this is Eastern Europe, homie. This isn't the fucking United States of America. Like, if you think you can tell someone from Ukraine or Russia, you own this thing technically, but please play nicely and share it with people. Like, are you out of your motherfucking mind? Like, I'll tell you a story right now. This year, when I brought up all the shit with Blast and all the conflicts of interest they had with Astralis and with all the teams and the other leagues and the fact that they won a major, when I brought up all these, what to anyone in the West are very obvious conflict of interest concerns, all these people who are in the CIS scene, who do like the StarLadder desk, for example, like the commentators and all those people, in Russian were having a discussion on Twitter, and I got someone who speaks Russian to translate it for me, right? And their basic premise went like this: why does he keep going on about conflict of interest? What's the big deal? Because their world is like, that's just all that goes on. Like, you just do whatever the fuck you want. It's like mobster mentality. Like, it's my shit. I do what I want. Oh, you want to fuck with me? Destroy this guy. It's like, they're not going to, like, the problem is you have to sort of explicitly tell people like that what the parameters are, what the boundaries are. They're just going to do what they want. It would be the same if you had an event in fucking China or something, mate. Like, they're not going to follow your little cultural rules from across the world and be nice or whatever. Like, imagine that even being a rule. Like, we don't want to tell you not to do this, but be nice, won't you? It's like, that's like some shit your mom tells you before you go to school. You still kick the kid in the fucking head, don't you? Well,
it would be much worse in China. Match fixing. What's the big deal?
Yeah, no, there's still a lot of match fixing that goes on, and
waiting on DK's
even in dude, even I've got some stuff recently. I'm considering like compiling it all together and sending it over to. Yeah, no, thankfully I'm out of that now. I can honestly say early on in the CSGO lounge days, I got approached once or twice to match fix, and one time it was just like, hey man, if you want to throw this game, we'll get you this, and I just deleted the guy off Steam. And then the second time, it was like these people who were trying to organize this league, where it was like, okay, look, guys, so all right, we're the inner circle, right? And we're gonna make this league. And it's gonna be 8 teams. And it's gonna be 8 teams, and it's gonna be all the bottom tier pro teams and the top MDL teams. And all the games are gonna be fixed. There's gonna be prize money, and we're gonna say like 10,000 for first place, but every single team gets an equal amount. And also you get this percentage of the throws and this and this and I'm just like, and I just sent all of that to ESEA, and because at the time it was like 2014 or 15, like I didn't have any contact with Valve, I didn't know shit. We were playing in the ESEA Premier at the time. And it was just like, all right, I just sent it to them. Nothing ever happened. And one of the guys ended up actually being an admin for ESEA after. So fun little fact there.
I just can't believe though that like with this whole like DMCA thing, like they were so obvious with like Dota. Like they literally said in writing, no one's allowed to send DMCAs other than. And
by the way, they literally did that within
Dota.
A couple of days. That was only a couple of days after that.
It's like during the tournament or whatever.
Yeah.
If you want to compare Counter-Strike to Dota and you don't play Dota, just install the game. That's all I ask you to do. It's free. Just install the game and open the game and tell me that they don't care
so
100 times better. More. Like the UI, everything about it is better.
Forever, I've made this analogy, and I've heard lots of people making it, so I'm not pretending I'm the only one or something. But Dota is like the firstborn child who is being raised to be king, and CS is like the bastard child that the king's wife had with the fucking stable hand, and you just have to pretend it's your kid so that the royal family doesn't look bad.
I usually take it further than that, Davey. I say that it's the kid that's like the mutant that lives in the attic that you feed fish heads every now and then. Like every night, like the majors, like they come with the barrel of fish heads and they just chuck them on the floor and then they leave for 6 months and come back later. Like that's who we are to Valve, mate.
You'll eat up.
Oh, that's wild.
The real joke is this. Do you remember when all that shit went down with Too Good and he got fired from that major in Dota famously, and like Gabe Newell himself fired him and said like he's an ass. Like
everyone got involved and made a
he went on Twitter and did it. He said Reddit rather. He made a Reddit post. But this
has
is
Gabe ever said anything about CS?
No.
Has the words Counter-Strike ever left his mouth?
He's done interviews where people have asked him, but he doesn't know much about it. But this is the key point, right? When that happened,
global offensive with it.
Everyone
counts the whole name.
When that happened, everyone kept telling me, like, "Oh, you better watch out. Gabe Newell will get you fired." I was like, "I've got zero fucking danger of getting fired. What are you talking about? They're not even watching. You fucking moron."
They're really.
This is like I always say, Counter-Strike, we're the latchkey children, because that term in England means you're like the kids who like you get home before your parents do from work, and so you're latchkey because you have your own key. You get in the house, don't you? You can do whatever you want.
Even if the entire Counter-Strike ecosystem stays exactly the same for the next year, I'll know that Valve cares more if I see like Gaben's like belly at the next major, because every freaking international, he'll like say something to the crowd, he'll like raise his hand, and then like his belly just like is popping out from underneath his t-shirt, and it's just like that's how I know it's that's how I know it's the international. That's how. As
soon as you see like pictures of Gabe's skin, you're just like, oh, all right, the international's going on.
Yep.
Yeah, I never follow Dota. I never followed Dota. I've never played.
I just thought of the darkest thing ever to say. You ready? I'm just going to do it anyway. So here's the thing. Which happens first? Does Gabe Newell attend a CSGO major or does he die?
I knew. As soon as you said that, I knew exactly where you were going.
Listen, podcasts are all about theory crafting. I just like to.
No, fair point.
Yeah, whatever. Just leave it at that, though. Don't anyone answer that question because you might get.
You might get DMCA'd. might get this channel.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, shit. Fuck. Anyway, so moving on. The next part of the statement, they did address conflict of interest. You kind of brought that up earlier, that all teams have to divest.
Which isn't the name of the new Counter-Strike game being developed in coordination with Refresh Entertainment. Refresh, Counter-Strike, conflict of interest.
So I wonder how serious they're actually going to enforce that. Like, how much are they? Because like, It's Valve.
Even the wording on that was vague as fuck, wasn't it? Like that's what kills me about Valve. Like I just know they're not going to do any of this shit,
like,
mate.
And how much effort are they actually going to put into pursuing people that have conflict of interest, right? Like everybody knows Refresh is conflict of interest as fuck, right? Everybody knows that.
Well, they were until recently, sure.
Dude, Valve does this kind of stuff to me. Like they do nothing and then they randomly drop hammers. Like they just like they take a while to like do something and then they just full out ban something. You know what I mean? Like they don't.
Dude, my favorite ever was that AWP nerf because like there wasn't even anyone in the world crying about that AWP. Like it was OP. I can't lie. Now I look back and I'm like, imagine Simple with that AWP. Like it'd be so ridiculous, wouldn't it? But at the time, everyone was fine. And remember, do you remember this? That patch actually came out late on the 31st of March. So they literally released it. No joke.
April Fool's Day.
So I thought this is a mad April Fool's joke. They just joked like, what would be the ultimate April Fool's joke in Counter-Strike? You nerf the AWP, obviously, and then you just bring it back to normal to CC plebs. You're all complaining, but it's not, and then it just never got reverted. I was like, "That's real." Holy shit!
You know what happened?
Why have you dropped the hammer on this?
Some Valve dev was just getting raped by an AWP.
Of course.
Dude,
I have the same joke. I had the same joke, but about why the CZ used to be so OP. It's because obviously some Valve devs just too shit, and he was like, I should be able to buy a pistol at any time that could kill that guy. And then he was like, they just designed like the most OP pistol of all. Because remember, it used to be like $300 for that original CZ.
Remember when the R8 could just one-shot somebody, and it was just, it was like
stopped playing for the week.
It was just like boom,
the game
boom, boom, and you could just do 105 damage with one hit.
Nothing was more OP than that auto shotgun buff.
Dude,
like
you remember that shit?
That
when you could pick mid on Dust 2 with a team of auto shotguns on T side and kill
them
crossing
easily.
Mid. Yeah,
easily.
Guaranteed kill. You have 3 guys top mid with auto shotties just going doo, 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 and 2 guys rush B, and anybody who tries crossing is dead. They can't cross.
I remember I joined a pug on Inferno. I peeked mid as a CT wide peeked to the middle of mid and one shot me with an auto shot. I just left. I was like, I won't play till this is nerfed. I was like,
no, Valve does some fucking interesting things. They do. Well, dude, what was the other one? Like when they first buffed the Tech 9 before it.
Deagle.
Well, the Deagle one was brutal too, where it started doing 80 damage per shot.
To the foot.
But that original Tech 9 buff, when it was
on train match week,
dude, it had 32 bullets. It was the accuracy didn't change if you were running, and it killed in 5 hits. And I remember we were scrimming. I was playing on a team, like we were playing on. It was mobility gaming. I was playing with Stanislaw on the team, and we were scrimming against the iBuyPower team at the time. And they said, "Yo, we're not going to buy the Tech 9s, right?" And we agreed not to. And
until he started losing.
No, not even until we started losing. First pistol round, Stanislaw bought one and rushed up Cat and killed like 3 of them. And they were like, "Bro, what the fuck?" And he was just ignoring them and just was only Tech 9ing and just destroying them the whole time. And like 5 rounds in, they just left. Like, we're not playing this. And I was like, sweet, man. Now we're not gonna get to fucking scrim against them anymore. Awesome.
It's wild that like whoever's doing the balance for CSGO is like I don't know, like they don't understand the game even nearly as well as like Ice Frog for Dota. Like the patches are so good in Dota all the time, but like in Counter-Strike it's like what the fuck is that?
Put it this way, I've noticed in Dota, because I follow the game a bit like competitively, if they do a patch change in Dota and it initially seems really weird, usually it's you who's wrong. You have to figure out what they change.
The meta like
it's the other way around in CS.
The pros figure it out and it's like, oh, there's a new style of playing the game. Exactly. It's like interesting and like
they never just break the game and just leave it.
yeah.
Well, in Dota, he's got a lot of the pros on like Skype or whatever, and he actually like runs things by people. He doesn't always listen to them. They don't always like his stuff, but like usually it's got reasons behind it. I find it hard to believe any dev made an auto shotgun change and was like consulting with something.
Am I the only one that thinks like the player union's just weak as fuck and they don't think they are? Like I can't believe some of the shit that's going on. Like, well, again, we'll talk about it really quick too. Like these exclusivity leagues that got leaked and like talked about, and then Valve released their thing saying like, also baller as fuck from Valve too, like straight up, because you know that they have that like not very good relationship with ESL, even though personally I think ESL runs the best events in the scene right now, but they have that like bad from that Dota DMCA thing. Yeah, and it makes sense. And they came out and they were just like, any tournament organizers that tell teams they're not allowed to play for other tournament organizers will not be granted licenses to run CS events. So I was like, whoa, now that was the only definitive thing they said in the whole fucking statement for the most part. which was like baller as fuck, by the way. And then Carmack came out. Love Carmack, by the way. He came out and he's like, yeah, this is how we see the scene too. And this is like, not fucking really, though, is it? Like, yeah, not fucking really though, is it? Because like that's definitely not what you guys were.
Yeah, since this article came out, this is how we see the scene.
Yeah, exactly. It's like maybe not really, but either way, I So yeah, that was a little bit strange. I forget where I was going with this point. I'm losing my mind. But either way, like I thought that like that whole statement from Valve was like actually super baller, like the way they came out with that part specifically. And the TOs kind of got fucked by it. But like I also was I was talking with Flom about it.
Basically, I'll give you the quick inside on that, right? So I made a tweet like this.
Real quick. I want to finish.
Yeah,
this.
No, that's fine. Just make your point.
He was talking about how like about how he thinks these exclusivity leagues are terrible. I'm a lot less against them than most people. I think that it could actually be a good thing to have it. But either way,
There's so much more money.
Yeah, well, not even that. Just to each their own.
Yeah.
I think there's nothing. Whatever. Fuck it. But I was telling him, I'm like, I'm not even worried about it because I'm of the opinion that if none of the players wanted to play in it, the player union could theoretically just all get together and say, no, we're not doing that, right? So either all the players were on board for it, like if the player union's as strong as people think, either all the players were on board with it is what that means, or they're not strong, or the orgs just alphaed the shit out of the player union. One of those two things happened there. So if that league did happen, either the player union was total trash or all the players are on board with it. I don't know which one it is.
Like, first of all, as far as I know, the player union is actually in negotiation with all these potential leagues and talking to them, and they're getting at least like consulted with. Because as you say, like you can't just like set they learned from PEA. You can't just set the whole league up and go right. Now all we need to do is tell the players to play, and then the whole thing got fucked up, didn't it? So they know that you can't do that again. But like the reason why, in my opinion, Valve did this move now is because basically that's the whole reason why ESL brought that news out like in the middle of the major that they were doing the Pro Tour and like before it was ended, because everyone who's trying to do these leagues is in a rush to get it started, right? And the thing is, the reason they want to do it, I made a tweet like this yesterday, but people who aren't in the industry might not understand, right? It might seem to you by how people in games like League of Legends talk that their scene's brilliant and ours is this primitive, undeveloped scene. That's why they love Counter-Strike, because in a game like League of Legends or Overwatch, when they do LCS and Overwatch, your choice goes like this. If you are an org like Cloud9, Team Liquid, your choice is, do I buy into the league, right? Well, if I want to be in League of Legends, I have to buy into the league. It's the only game in town because the game dev owns the IP rights and chooses to grant licenses to tournaments. So if I want to play League of Legends, I have to be in LCS. So even if I like the concept of a franchise model, my big problem is that it has to be run by Riot. They're the ones who run it. And so if they run it, even if I'm a member of LCS, if their team that sells the sponsorship for the league is shit, if the guy who's the commissioner is an idiot, if the way they structure the deal for how much they take from each of the teams into the pot is done badly, then you end up with like, yeah, I want a franchise system, but not the way that's run. So what all these orgs see is they see that in Overwatch, Blizzard's in my way. In League of Legends, Riot Games is in my way. Wait a minute, in Counter-Strike, there's no one, and as far as we know, Valve doesn't want to be involved. That means I could be the Valve of CSGO. So they want a franchise league where they run it. Because the difference is, first of all, just financially, they will kill LCS and Overwatch League. Like, you know how much better people like fucking Jack and the Team Liquid guys and the FaZe Clan guys, you know how much better these people are at selling massive sponsorships than fucking like Riot Games, Billy Big Balls, whoever the fuck's in that department there. Like, they're about 100 times better. I bet they even get paid, whoever does those two deals, 10 times more than the guy who's just a guy at Riot. So like, to them, their dream is Counter-Strike, because to them, it's like the Wild West. It's the open frontier where you could just go and set up a whole city and you could just run everything. So what really Valve was doing is getting way ahead of that and saying right now, listen, do whatever you want basically still, but the one thing you will not do is explicitly say this is a franchised league where you cannot play in other leagues. Because here's the thing, I pointed this out on Twitter. Technically, you can still have an exclusive league. You just schedule your days on top of someone else's days. There we go. Has he signed up to play in your day? Yeah. Well, then he can't play two tournaments. He can't be two players at once. That's a very like a clever, subtle way to do it. But they wanted it to be gangster style, where they just tell you to your face, did you just sign that contract? You're never going to play in my rivals league. I own you. They wanted it that level where it's like you really are the one in charge. So all Valve did really is make it so that you can never like overtly take over. You have to still battle with everyone else for your space, as it were, you know, which is a good thing.
No, it's totally fine. Like I have no problem with it. And even if they want to start these like quote unquote franchise leagues where there's no relegation and like the 10 biggest orgs go ahead and make their league and they set up their whole LAN thing and everybody goes and plays like ESL Pro League, like their tour thing. I think that's all good. I don't have any problem with that, to be honest. Especially because there is always going to be tier 2 events in CS. There's always going to be that second tier.
Also, don't ever worry that we'll ever have like they have in League where you just have Worlds and then you wait in all the rest of the year. Like they will never get rid of the majors. So the majors will always have all the teams anyway. Even if the teams get
openly said too that and they've openly said they're not doing a TI system. Like we're not having a world championship, which something I'm like lots of people want a TI. I don't. I just want crowdfunding for the majors. Like I don't like the idea of end of the year one big huge championship that you have to fucking win, and that's what makes the best team of the year. I don't like that shit. I don't like that shit, man. It's like that American system of like doing leagues and stuff where there's like, yep, the regular season, this doesn't really matter as long as you make it to the playoffs. Then all you have to do is win in the playoffs.
I would like one major being more important than the other major, where they double the time span of it, where like everything is best of threes, like maybe the prize money's double. You know what I mean? Like I'm fine with it not being like the TI, but I would like a tournament with like double BO3 with all the best teams and
put it this way.
I just want I be that.
It would be a lot easier for me to swallow the garbage major bracket we had if it'd come from Team Liquid losing 2 best of 3s to get into that position. Yeah. The fact they lost 2 best of 1s and they were the best team in the world.
Yeah.
That invalid. Like I can't really look at the other bracket and go, well, it's your own fault. It's like anyone can lose a best of 1 for fuck's sake.
Yeah. No, it's true. That's what, like, Corey, we were making jokes about that. I don't know if we were doing it on a show or if we were doing it on Return Fire. I don't know what we were making the joke, but Corey was like, you could put a team together of like the top FPL players in North America, send them to that major, and they could win a BO1. You know, on some map.
Dude, that crazy team pretty much proved it, right? Crazy basically is FPL stars of Europe who just played together for 6 months or something, right?
Yeah, they actually do play good CS though. If you watch those crazy demos, they actually do play good CS. Like they're actually they're a legit fucking team. Like they're not like super tactical, but they play good fundamental CS though. To be fair,
you have good skilled players. You win both pistols. You don't get eco'd, and you win first guns. You can beat anyone. Like, will it be harder versus a Liquid? Are you guaranteed those rounds? No, but like that's how you lose a BO1 as Liquid. You know, like that's like the first step in losing it. Just you go down big. You don't have a best of 3 because a lot of times when you lose a map in a BO3 as the better team, you're like, all right, they're playing really aggressive. Let's not get caught off guard. They're playing, you know what I mean? Like you can kind of see the tendencies, and then you crush them on like the next 2 maps.
Well, just look at Team Liquid themselves. So they just had this streak where they won like 22 best of 3/best of 5s in a row, right? During that time span, obviously they lost a bunch of BO1s in single maps, but they won 22 in a row. So that shows you right there the level of consistency in a best of 3 versus a best of 1. Because you know there was that thing where just because he's just way too horny about maths, Lurpus once made this whole argument on Twitter that like he'd run the numbers and technically your odds on losing a best of 1 in most cases when he looked at like real numbers, like actual data, wasn't that much higher than losing a best of 3. The problem is like everything qualitative about it, your eyes and your brain tells you what the game tells you that isn't the case. Yeah. So I know what he means by that. Like he might even be right, but in terms of everything of how it feels to play it feels nothing like that. Like I can accept the best of 3 loss. I've always said that. That's why I like that Star Ladder format where they did Swiss with best of 3. Because it's like if I go out in the tournament, I can't then go, God, unlucky. It's like I lost fucking 3 best of 3s. What more did I want?
That was the event that Navi won, right?
Yeah, Star Series.
Yeah, the only time
was a legit win.
The only time in my career I've ever like lost a best of 3 and felt like I got cheated out of my like best of 3 was when we lost a NIP.
Gotta be that.
Yes. Or, like just on
Cobblestone. Yeah, of course.
Like,
the map was bullshit.
And that was we just couldn't practice it, and there was like, and we lost 16-14, and I felt so cheated because I was like, man, if that was another map,
you would have won it if it'd been any other map, obviously.
We felt so bad. Like that was like my worst loss feeling.
Yeah, that was a fucking classic moment too when Valve had random third maps for the major.
Yeah.
You're just like,
I like the idea we even need to debate whether Valve cares about the competitive side of Counter-Strike when at a major they brought in a randomizer and 2 new maps no one was allowed to play in an official tournament before.
And
then let some motherfucker win the tournament off it and then just go, this is good. And remember, they kept that randomizer for like 2 more years or something.
Yeah.
Because people forget that was actually one of the factors behind how Team Liquid made the MLG Columbus run. Like they got some randomizer maps.
When we were playing at the major, we had that. And I remember in both of our games, it came down to like, okay, when we played against Fnatic, we're like, okay, the one map we don't want is Train. There's the other two, anything but Train. We got Train. And we're just like, fuck. Same thing happened next map. We're up against FaZe. It's like, okay, just not Inferno. Just not Inferno against FaZe. Inferno. We're just like, fuck. Like, just
here's the thing that'll trigger you though, is I'm not going to say who told me this, but this information just came to me, right?
Right.
The reason
just floated your way.
The reason why Valve liked that, and this is the reason I have glee in my voice as I tell you, because I know there's no way you can like Valve when I tell you this. The reason they liked the randomizer was because their logic was, well, what if you just don't want to play the new maps that we brought in? So
no,
they
I know.
were finding a way to
No.
make you play their maps.
That's
That's like some creepy fucking like controlling like boyfriend shit where it's like you're not allowed to like dress the way you want. So like the fuck that shit. Like I can play the map I want. I am free, you know.
They were literally afraid that their maps were just going to get vetoed forever.
Yeah, exactly. They thought everyone would
no,
just
they
veto at
won't.
second phase. Also, that is, as someone says, that's so unrealistic. Because actually, what's stupid is Valve were wrong. And the reason they were wrong is there's one team you need to pick, and it shows it. It's Virtus Pro. Half the reason why Virtus Pro never had to make a player change is they used to just tunnel on whatever the new map was. So when the rework of Overpass came out, they were one of the best teams on it pretty quickly. Cobblestone, loads of it. Train, when they did the rework, they immediately became really good again. Nuke, when it came out, they're the only team that literally started picking it every time. Like that team showed what the reason why you can never make maps that no one will play. Because the fact that people don't play it incentivizes you to play it because you get an
don't
edge.
get me wrong, I love new maps. I love them. They're like one of my, like as long as they're not shit. But like,
I love the idea of new maps.
Yeah, like it keeps the game fresh. It lets people experiment with new strats and setups, and like it kind of brings new stuff to the game. But yeah, like you can't force people to play things. Like at least, like you can.
That's almost as good as you remember when ESEA lands used to have preset maps in the series.
Yeah.
At the land
and there would just be
so if you just dude, if you just played a team in the upper semis and they're your main rival and they just get their maps, it's like fuck you then I guess. Like whose idea was that? That's so dumb.
Classic. That's a classic CPL format. But no, I've said this for a while. This is how I think we should do it. So we keep the 7 map pool. Some people are like, expand it to a 9 map pool. Dude, that'd be just fucking wild. Like 7 maps is hard. Most teams aren't even good on like no.
Dude, you know how triggered I get.
Yeah,
like if you want to just ruin my mental, just get me those fans who say like, I think every pro should know how to play 7 maps.
I know. And you're
listen,
just like, dude, you're fucking.
I'm trying so hard not to tell you to kill yourself when you say that. Like, I'm trying to think of every other way to say it. Like I'm trying to be political.
How
everything.
many possible ways can I tell you that you are not needed on this earth without?
Like you can't even get into the topic. Can you? It's too bad.
No, it's so ridiculous. But anyways, what I think they should fucking do is every major cycle, at the end of every major, like let's say, think of it like a batting order in baseball, right? There's a batting order. Who's up next? Okay, let's just say Mirage is up next, right? As soon as the major's done, Mirage goes out, circles all the way back around, and then there's a new map that comes in. Canals, Seaside, whatever the fuck you want it to be, Valve, whatever shit map you decide is going to be good, you put that into the rotation now. And now that there's a new 7 map rotation, just one new map, boom. Then for the next whole major cycle, the next 6 months or however many months it is, that's the map rotation. Then everybody knows that after this major rotation is over, this map, now let's say it's Train. Train's coming out of the rotation, boom, another map comes in. And then you have and that way, every 6 months, you have one new map that comes into the rotation. Keep shit fresh. Teams know exactly what maps are going in, what's going out. You know what map's up next. You know what map's leaving. And you do that every major cycle. And that way, we constantly have new maps because I love the idea of new maps. I think it's fucking great. I think how many fucking times do I have to watch a Dust 2 game? I'm so fucking sick of that map. I think Dust 2 is so fucking boring to watch. It's boring to play. Mirage has
gotten bad, I have to say.
It's so bland now. Like it's a fun map to play. It's really well designed. Like it's a really well designed map, but it's gotten so fucking bland at this point. I can't watch it anymore. Like it's just
so individual, honestly. Like I just feel like it's such an individual map now.
We just need to cycle out maps. Like I don't know.
Oh, there's a reason why, Semphis. As soon as they took fucking Dust 2 out of the map pool, like last year or whatever it was, like that was when instantly every FPL fucking mix was on Mirage. Like, oh, why is this the map every time? Like, this is pure.
Yeah.
And that's also where, to give you the example of the fact that, like that, the reason it was the FPL map is because that's the one map you can still like fucking pog all the time on T-side. You do whatever you want.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, it's really individual based. You can kind of work whatever you want on T. You can push whatever you want on CT. It's like there's not really a downside. Like on Inferno, you don't just get free Rain to just push hulls every round to get owned. But you could push T-Ramp every round on Mirage if you wanted.
Yeah. All right. So anyway, so we're getting towards the end of the show now. It's been just about an hour and a half. Duncan, we talk about this pretty much every time with somebody at some point. I don't know if this is going to be a recurring thing or not, but you've gone to so many events in your time. Okay. I'm not going to ask you what the worst event was, because you might not want to say that. But what was your worst travel story going to an event? Like, what was the one where as you're going there, you're just like, man, fuck this travel day.
I've got a better one for you. Here's the problem. Okay. It wasn't going to the event, it was leaving the event. Sure, but it's same
travel
day.
Just
concept,
travel
right?
day in general.
This is mental.
Okay, give it to us.
When I did, I think off the top of my head, I believe this was the MLGX Games Aspen one, the one where actually like Fallen and Kaboom first came along, and actually they kaboomed Corey's fucking Cloud9 on Mirage, funnily enough, interestingly. They invented all those smokes that everyone uses to this day. Right, at that tournament, which was in Aspen, Colorado, pretty cool place actually. It was like, we literally were at the place where all like the ski fucking lodges are. And we were at the X Games, we were, like behind the tent we were in, there actually was people doing like, I don't know, fucking 360s off a half pipe or some shit like that, Well, at the time, I was living in Korea, in Seoul, in South Korea. And so I flew, like across the Pacific to the fucking northwest part of America and went to Colorado, right? And when I was going back, the flight was supposed to, again, be direct from I would go like Colorado to, I think I went like Aspen, small flight to Colorado, then Colorado to, I think, LAX.
Yeah,
and then from LAX, to Seoul, which is like, 10-hour flight or something. Mm-hmm. So not a big deal. You add in all the travel, maybe it's going to be like 14 hours. And literally, because we're coming out of Aspen.
More than 14 hours, right?
No, I think about that. For the total travel time, maybe 15 or something. We're talking like short flight, and then, maybe 15, 16 then tops. Yeah, whatever. But anyway, the key part is, because I'm coming out of Aspen, well, you can imagine this isn't like, I think the event was at the end of January, right? So it's right in the winter season. That's why they had X Games there, right? So already like one of your flights could get cancelled, right? Because of all the snow, and you're in a small plane on the first one. But literally, the first flight gets cancelled an hour. It's like, whatever. You get to the next one. The next one, though, was like cancelled itself like 2 hours. Then we get to like the one that's the long haul. And the problem is, because it's been cancelled a bunch, like you've missed that first one, obviously. It's like hours and hours ago. So they put you on a new flight. And this one still says, Seoul, Korea. I get on the plane. And while I'm on the plane, right, like 9 hours into this flight, it's like, let's say it's an 11-hour flight. 9 hours in, and I've already been delayed 4 or 5 hours on my travel anyway. Someone on the intercom just goes like, it's your captain here, and we're just going to have to reroute via Guam. And I'm like, and I'm literally just looking around like, what's he talking about though? And then they're going, we'll be landing that. Like, there's a lot of air trouble up here. And we go, and listen, I'm going to tell you it now. I wasn't even aware. Like, I don't even know what Guam is. Like,
dude, I'm trying to think of what Guam is right now.
It sounds like a delicious fruit, but it isn't. It's actually a small island in the Pacific. Yeah. Kind of like Hawaii, basically, except a real island.
It's like a bumfuck version of.
Yeah, but the thing is, it's sort of like it's closer to Japan and Korea than Hawaii. Obviously, Hawaii's right next to America, isn't it? It's basically closer on that side. So what they'd done was just there must have been problems landing or something. They'd rerouted us over there. We went to Guam. Then we had to go stay there for 3 hours. Then go to Japan and then go back to Korea. So by the time I got home, this is not an exaggeration, Davey. By the time I got home, it was something mental, like 3 days after I set off. And at the time, I had this mad streak going of making videos, right? And you listen to how tilt-worthy this is. I had made a video every day in Korea for something like 57 days. I know it's 57 because I then spent 3 days with no internet on an airplane in Guam. Literally, at one point, I was just stood in Guam, right? With all fucking palm trees and because remember, it wasn't good weather. It was all weather blowing and rain and stuff. And I was just looking out, and there was some guy who could just be from Hawaii, hey, brother, what you thinking? I said, what the fuck is this shit? Why am I here? I'm supposed to live in Korea. What is this? What is this? I only tried to go to an event. And this is before, remember, we made loads of money. I was only making okay money from events like that. I wasn't just balling out of control in some hotel. It was pure shit. So I just got home 3 days later, what is this shit?
I'm looking at Guam on Google Maps right now. I got my little.
It's the middle of
map.
nowhere, isn't it? It's so mental.
Okay, so for anybody who's wondering, it's like in between like Australia and.
It's actually owned by the US or something bizarre. So that's like the weird part of it.
Yeah.
I don't know how this island exists. It's like more in the middle of nowhere than.
It does
Hawaii
look fake, doesn't it? Like, how can this be
it does.
real?
Yeah, it's like it's almost like, how did anybody find this? Like,
It looks pretty nice, dude.
no, it's not. It's like a little tropical
It's
island.
got nice
I feel like
beaches.
But
Thorin
Alex-
kind of ruined his vacation because he was mad.
I should have stayed there, shouldn't I? Why did I go back?
like Alex is talking about getting island fever on Hawaii, bro. Like, I can't even imagine what it would be like to live in fucking Guam. Like, I'm looking like, what the fuck is this? Like, there's
Dude, I kinda wanna go
It's
here.
so small. It's so small too. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
it's
that's the
like,
downside. It's a really small place, mate.
like, I wonder how many people. This has become more of like me being interested in Guam more than you're actually.
You're gonna go to Guam, aren't you? That's your
probably
plan now.
fucking not. Probably not, to be honest. I can't imagine.
Davey
I would
won't
ever
even go to
there.
China. He's not going to Guam.
That's true. I won't be going to China.
Holy shit! I just looked it up as well, dude. There's only 164,000
Yeah.
people in Guam.
I know, like this. There's nothing. Yeah, 164,229.
There's probably that many people in fucking Brooklyn right now, mate.
Oh,
Way
yeah,
more than that.
more,
What even is
more,
that? Guam? What the
More.
fuck?
There's
But
more
anyway,
people
yeah.
in the
I
city
think
live in.
anytime, Davey, that you're trying to travel to another continent, you just end up on an island you didn't even know existed in the middle of the island, in the middle of the ocean, just going like, so I'm getting back in 2 days. Sound like, I think that's about as bad as your travel can
No,
get.
that-
And the thing
that-
is, by the way, I even used to be one of those people who, like a complete piece of shit, used to brag that like I'd never had any travel. Like, I never even used to get delayed flights. I used to just take all my flights, they'd all work. My baggage would always arrive. And then I made the mistake of doing that thing where I like said, I think I'm just lucky, you know, shit never happens to me. And then I had this
I
fucking
did
Guam
the
flight like
exact same
2
thing.
months later or something. She got banged completely by the universe. I
Yep.
should never have tempted fate, should I?
I've
I
never
did-
lost my bag, actually. I'm pretty lucky.
They lost mine once when I was going to that fucking thing we went to, that dude tour in Colorado. Corey, you remember? And like,
Fuck that.
dude,
Fuck
fuck that event. But yeah. Anyway, so
Dude.
on my way there, first of all, our manager at Splice at the time, Kyle. I love putting Kyle on blast because he's fuck Kyle. But he didn't send us.
The
he
Guam
didn't
of
send,
people.
no, no, but like for real though, like he didn't send us our itineraries for this shit until the day before we were supposed to leave. And me and Corey, like, you know how like orgs always ask players like, hey, can you go do this promotional thing for us? Can you do this? Can you do this? And 99% of players say no. Well, I was always the guy that would be like, yeah, sure, I'll do it. You know, like I was always the guy who would say sure to that shit. And so for weeks we're like asking like, dude, where's our itinerary? Like when am I going? When is this? And then like I'm supposed to leave like Thursday at like noon, and he sends me the itinerary like Wednesday night at midnight. I'm already asleep. I wake up and it's like, dude, I can't make this flight now. Like I'm like, there's no way I'm gonna be able to make this. So they get me on a flight the next day. We go to leave the airport in Toronto. Like I have to fly from Windsor to Toronto, then Toronto to Denver. And we go to leave the airport and we're taking off, and we hit a fucking snowy owl. What is that? Like a snowy owl is like the most rare fucking bird in North America. I did just make that up, but it's pretty. I'm sure it's almost true. And so like, and we hit, and like, so the plane breaks. The landing gear is stuck down, so we can't fly. So we have to turn around and land. And then the flight attendant's like walking around showing pictures to everybody on the plane. Oh look, we killed a fucking snowy owl. Look, the
What
pilot.
the fuck? Who's this guy?
I
Who's
swear to
this?
fucking God, dude. This girl, she was walking around and because
She sounds mentally ill, mate.
Was she gleeful or was she mournful?
No, not really gleeful. It was almost
Oh,
like,
okay.
look, it's so cool, like a snowy owl. It's like, yeah, but we fucking
Was.
He's dead now.
Was
yeah,
it
like we
somehow?
fucking killed it though, didn't we? But like, yeah, so she's walking by, she's like showing that to people and shit, and I'm just like, when are we gonna fucking leave? Anyway, so we get there, and then I'm landing after being delayed for so fucking long, and then it was due tour. It was like kind of like an X Games type thing, and we're up in the mountains. So I brought my snowboard with me, and they lost it at the airport, and I was just like, oh fuck's sake, like this is so fucking annoying. And so, but I did the same thing you did, where I never had any problems traveling for years. I never had any problems, and then I started saying like, yeah, I don't know, I never have problems traveling, never. And then almost every single time now, without fail, something fucking goes wrong. Something
Dude, I
goes
hated
wrong.
that event, dude.
So
That's, like-
basically, that plane was Vitality and a Vanguard was the snowy owl. Right.
I guess so. All right. Anyways, Corey, what were you gonna say about that?
I would say like the altitude there, you know, they call like Colorado the mile high city, right? So I think Aspen is like what?
Wait, I can look it up.
6,000.
We were actually in Breckenridge, so I'll look it up.
No, I know. I'm just comparing it to Aspen. So like Aspen's like 6,000, which I went to X Games. I felt okay there. I didn't
feel like the effect was that big. Yeah, everyone was saying. I guess from sports, people were implying like it was going to be a big deal. The only thing I noticed, which everyone said, was if you tried to get high, you did get high quicker, just because. Like,
so where we went is actually
lasted you more, you know.
So
it's actually
that's my only barometer, Maui Snake. That's the only way I can tell if there's any difference in the world, man.
So Aspen's
How easy is it to get
2.4. So Aspen's 2.4 kilometers above sea level. Breckenridge, where we were, is actually 3 kilometers above sea level.
Okay.
So
yeah, and it's so much fucking worse. I couldn't sleep, dude. I'd wake up like every hour, and I felt like I didn't sleep a minute. I was there. Like you just get like you can't breathe. Like the air's thin, so your body just wakes you up because it thinks you're like suffocating or something.
Right.
Like it's like you get sleep apnea, but like
and every time I would eat, I would just throw up. Like I would just get sick. I was like fucking practically bulimic when I was there. Like I would eat something, and within 1 hour I was getting sick from the altitude sickness. I'm like, why didn't anybody fucking warn me about this? Like maybe I'm dumb and I should have known.
Doesn't sound like a great place to have an event, to be fair.
And so then I'm walking around with like 0 sleep like a zombie, and we're like, they had us doing the dumbest shit ever. They got like Mountain Dew got us there to like do a Mountain Dew stream where they got like some gamers from different games to come, and we just kind of walked around and followed these people that had like a live Twitch cam that they like had, and they just did all the talking and we did nothing. We just walked around to follow them. Like I don't know, it was like the biggest waste of time. Like it was so weird.
In like major sports, actually, like Denver is like the highest. They have like the best home field dominance, like all the time or whatever.
Yes, it's very famous from the NFL that like people think that like they're some of their best teams. It's like well, you have to go play at their fucking stadium, don't they? Where they just play it all the time. Like supposedly, I think it's defensive players. There's some position in the NFL they say is like way worse if you play at their stadium because of the fact you just have no breath or whatever.
Well, yeah, your red blood count will go up if you live in Denver for a while because your blood needs to have more oxygen in it. So if you're always playing in Denver, when you go somewhere else, you just feel better. Because
I believe they said the same. Oh, I think the position I'm thinking was the kicker. I think the kicker can make way bigger kicks if it's at high altitude.
Oh yeah, like the home runs.
I think their guy had like the record or something but they said it was like shouldn't be counted because he was at the high altitude or some shit. You know.
Yeah.
All right,
Vegas though.
That's been almost 2 hours, I think. Pretty close to 2 hours at this point. Yeah. Anyway, so I think that's going to be the show.
So anyway, see you guys at Blast Pro Series Guam.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, real quick before we end this shit, who a fucking event in Bahrain? Are you fucking kidding me? What type of unbelievable?
Get me out.
What the fuck is that? Who come on? Surely you don't need the oil money that bad.
Maybe that was one of those things where like you either accept the offer or they kill you. You know, like they say, like at the top level, like CIA drug run or whatever, they always claim like if they even make you the offer, if you've got to that level, like they just kill you if you say no.
Yeah, and I'm trying to get hired. I'm trying to get hired to events right now, and I'm putting all these events on blast.
Say yes.
Not the best fucking strat.
Yes.
Dude,
yeah,
I would go to it. I would go to the event.
We just need events in Vancouver, dude. People would love Vancouver.
Dude, there is a serious lack of events in Canada. I don't know why that is. I don't know if it's maybe Canada has some fucking weird ass laws, like some tax thing, because Canada's taxes are real
like getting
high.
visas or something, maybe.
No, visas are easier.
It's just because people don't feel comfortable coming to a country where the PM just constantly racist all the time. You know, I like going to America where they don't have a racist leader. Like, you know, the whole fear of racism in Canada just gone way too far.
Yeah, but ours places dress up, so you know.
And then again, though, you do have a great appreciation for the movie Aladdin, which I also enjoyed.
I'm not against you here.
Dude, all I'll say about that, by the way, the one last thing on that topic was, you know, the actual funniest thing about that topic wasn't him like getting caught in all those pictures. It's where they asked him, because 3 different pictures came out. They asked him, and all he would say was he couldn't recall how many times he'd done it, which implied like it could just be like 20 times. He just didn't want to say it. Like, that's actually the funniest part, not even him doing it. It's like, he's like, well, how many times did you do it? I mean, I can't possibly recall. It's like,
how many times do you know about?
Yeah, exactly. That's actually the best part of it.
He's not a very brilliant guy. I try not to get political because
it's all right.
I'm very active in I'm really into the Canadian politics, and I try not to get political because what I will say is he is just a fucking idiot. And that's about as political as I'm
Exactly.
going to get
Just leave it at that. There we go.
That's it. That's all I'll get. He is a
that.
fucking idiot. So, anyways, now that we're completely demonetized, perfect. Thorin, thank you for coming on the show. You have anything you want to pimp out? I'm sure we have pretty much a full crossover of viewers, but
yeah, I'm pretty sure everyone sees all the shit. Yeah,
yeah.
Cool.
Anyways, so everyone, make sure you go check out Thorin. If you're not following him for some reason, if you just don't like him because you think he's not a very nice guy, fuck you.
And tweet at Richard Lewis and hated him instead because he needs
exactly. And Richard Lewis will reply. Like, you have to realize I don't reply to morons. I just make fun of you publicly with the fan logic and just move on my life. Richard might actually give you a personalised reply.
True.
Now, he'll call you mentally ill and tell yourself you kill yourself, but that just comes with the territory. You got to understand.
Right. So anybody who doesn't like Thorin and was directing hate at them, just everybody go direct that hate towards Richard instead.
Oh, man.
You get so triggered that we said that as well. That is so harsh.
Funny story. Before I actually worked.
Oh, by the way, another person, if you also want to reply, guaranteed, the other person's Lopez, just tweet at TOMI. He'll also reply to 100% of messages.
Before I worked for Thorin, actually, I have like another just smaller Twitter account, and you said something about Russell Westbrook being like the best player in the NBA, and I actually was like, that's not even a hot take, that's just a shit opinion. You actually blocked me on that account. So,
right, first of all, that is a lie, because I would never say Russell Westbrook is. I think Russell Westbrook is an overrated bum. It was probably Anthony
something
Davis.
Really good.
I think Anthony Davis,
like really positive, and I was like, that's not right.
I think it's Anthony Davis I said it to, but whatever. Maybe that was the hot take. But no, you're right. Oh, by the way, I'll even tell you as an aside, there was actually, I can't say the name because I was told it privately, but there was a legendary 1.6 player that had apparently like a fake Twitter account that he used to just tweet about CSGO. He's into the game now. And actually, Lopez did tell me that, like, I actually apparently fan logicked one of that guy's tweets, like some like mega legendary player as well. But here's the thing: I don't know what tweet it was, but I'm going to guess it was probably some stupid shit. Guess what? Even legends can say stupid shit. That could also be the tagline for this show.
Legends can still say stupid shit. Perfect.
Dude, I have so many titles. I have
Aaron.
so many potential titles right now. We got
You
Baking with Thorin, Billy Big Balls. This is mental.
Baking with Thorin's not bad.
Yeah,
Dude,
I like
I'm
that
telling
one.
you, look, you need to do something with that, please. Just fulfill my fantasy. That's the shit I want to watch. I need to watch that. Shit.
I don't know. Here's the thing, mate. I've had enough problems in my own life of things that I said and actually intended to say and fully thought through, sober, at the cold light of day. I don't know if I want to start introducing psychoactive chemicals into my whole process here.
It would
I feel like that could get out of control real fast, Davey.
I promise you, it would be the best content. It would be the best.
If you were doing a cooking show, what do you normally eat, Thorin? I don't know if I've ever seen you eat food.
No, exactly. That's the best part because you're
what do you eat?
Particular about your
mukbangs.
Food. Yeah. You're so particular about your food. It's like a meme almost that like you're very particular. You want good food, all this shit. Like I remember one time I posted a picture of this.
I feel like you like Asian food.
I posted a picture of this sweet chicken and like waffle fries dinner, and you like that shit on my Instagram, and I was like, dude, he's a food guy. I know he is. I know he's a food guy.
Yeah, I love that shit.
It would be the best, and you don't even actually have to bake. Like you don't have to do fucking like pastries and shit, but just like the title, just baking with Thorin, where you're just stoned as fuck and making food with your guest, and then just
just doing food reviews.
Not as good. Still all right. Not as good though. Okay. Not as good. Unless like. I still feel like you need somebody else there. Like you could do food reviews, but with somebody else.
You can't get Thorin high. You can't take what little filter he has away.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Exactly. I'm already walking a tightrope.
Just don't do it live.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, you could just edit every now and then.
Yeah, just don't. And if you watch that back after and you're just like, fuck, I cannot put this out there, then you just don't.
No, I feel like Thorin would watch back and be like, upload.
Yeah, that's my problem. That's also another problem, Davey, is remember half the shit I do, I also press upload or send. Like my problem is I need someone between me and the thing. Like you know how many times on By the Numbers, Richard's like
your middleman.
You know, half the time Richard's like timestamp that. I'm like, that should stay in. That was all right. He's like, nah, it's about an entire religion thing. We have to remove it. Like, nah, whatever.
When we did the counterpoint thing, he edited out my Epstein joke, dude. It wasn't even that bad.
On BTS,
I thought it was pretty funny, to be fair. I thought it was pretty good.
That was a good one. That was
pretty good.
Yeah, but all right. Anyway, so we've almost.
It was dodgy, but it was a good one. It was dodgy. I can't lie.
All right. So that is the end of the show. Now we've been going for over 2 hours. It's been the longest episode we've done in a while. So I hope all of you enjoyed it. Don't forget, if you made it this far, patreon.com/peakersadvantage, patreon.com/behind the numbers.
Behind the numbers,
dude. You know this fucked me up.
Oh
yeah, that's true. You have your own Patreon too, don't you? Yeah. You got
It'll
all
all
of
be
it.
in
I'm
the
trying to-
description. I
I'm
got it.
trying-
Buy the
trying
numbers
to
as ours.
buy
I
the
got
numbers.
mine
Dude,
Thorin with
no,
3
listen, my chat has been fucking trolling me in my stream lately because they come in and they intentionally say it wrong all the time to the point
right.
where my brain is getting fucked by it. Like I'm just like, it's obviously by the numbers. Well, not by the numbers, but you know what I mean. Whatever. And they keep.
Yeah, it is by the numbers.
Return it behind the number.
Return
Return it by them. Whatever.
Yeah, there's so much.
Why are you still calling it return? It's been 70 episodes. I just don't understand.
It's a long return.
Anyway, so yeah, go check out.
We haven't finished returning.
All of Thorin's links will be in the description. Don't forget to check out our Patreon, follow everybody, subscribe to the channel, do all the fun shit that makes everything better. And thank you guys for watching this episode. Again, see you next week.